إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. English translation as follows. By the token of time through the ages, verily man is lost. Except such as have faith and do righteous deeds and join together in the mutual teaching of truth and of patience and constancy. Sadaqallah.
Thank you, Dr. Nissan. Oh, this is on cue. Could everybody please turn their phones off? At least the ringer. Thank you. Okay, so Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming. Your presence here today demonstrates your deep commitment to the human rights and the democratic process in Pakistan, which at this time is under a lot of scrutiny. The media, the civil society, and the pro-democracy activists are being subjected to the worst curtailment of their civil rights and liberty. For those who are visiting from out of state, I would like to welcome all of you to our great state of New Jersey. It is home to an incredibly vibrant and dynamic Pakistani American community. Through its unrelenting civic engagement, congressional outreach, and public awareness of all the human rights abuse, they have made a great effort in making sure that everybody knows about the human rights abuses that are happening in Pakistan, while at the same time, they have worked hard to have a positive relation between the United States of America and Pakistan. The Pakistani diaspora is the fourth largest Asian group in the great state, with a per capita income of $80,000. This makes our state one of the wealthiest states in the country. It is also home to some of the most elite universities, which many of you have attended. We send tens of millions of dollars in remittances to Pakistan. So we have economic, political, and social leverage, both here in our adopted country and in our birth country of Pakistan. The amount of talent and wealth concentrated in this room alone is astounding. At one point or another, all of us moved from Pakistan to this country armed with our degrees, education, skills, and most of all, the burning desire to make it. Say what you will today, but whatever success we are enjoying is because of both the experiences from our birth country and the opportunities that this country has afforded us. And today, by showing up today, over here today, you have, especially by being here today for Pakistan, especially when she needs you the most, I would really request all of you to give yourself a big round of applause. So at this point, ladies and gentlemen, we have somebody among us who is an assemblyman, and of course he is from Pakistan. Let me give you his name and a little introduction. Assemblyman Afzal Barla is here. He's a Republican, and he represents New Jersey Legislature, the legislative district of 440. Elected in November 2023, he was born in Nazimabad number 4 in Karachi, and he moved to the US. And he moved to this country at the age of 4. He is a living example of what I just mentioned about the opportunities that this country affords us. So please, Assemblyman Abdul Barla, please come here and say a few words.
Thank you very much. It's my honor and privilege to be here today. Obviously, this is not my district. There are folks here from throughout the state and other parts of the country, and I welcome you all being here. Conversations like these are very important. We'll do our mixing out. But discussions like this are very important. And the reason they're important is because, majority of the people here are not from here. Our children are from here. The grandchildren perhaps are from here, but you yourselves are not from here. I am not from here, right? This country has given me a lot, but at the end of the day, when I fill out any application and it says place of birth, it always says Pakistan. And so discussions like this about the future of Pakistan and the condition of Pakistan today and where it is going in the future are very, very important and necessary. You know, I did a little bit of research coming here, and that's on the table. But when you look at, when you're talking human rights, and there'll be a great discussion about politics and government and the role of government and politics and the military and all these other things. And I'm actually glad I'm not part of this discussion because I can contribute nothing like these gentlemen here can. So I'm actually happy I'm here first. But what I wanted to say was the things that are important to all of us. The reason why my father and mother left Pakistan with 4 suitcases and $500 is because they knew that for me and eventually for Japan, what opportunities were there for us in Pakistan. And those opportunities were probably not the best ones, at least not in terms of stability, right? And education and a better life. And that's why all of you left, right? You didn't leave because it was so great there that you figured you'd try it over here, right? You left for a reason, and you bring family over for a reason. And these discussions are so important for that. And the things that matter to me as a father of a 5-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son is education. In Pakistan, the literacy rate as of October 2022 per UNESCO is 58%. For women, it is 46.5%. A country with a population of 251 million people, 124 million of which roughly are women. Only 57.6 million women are literate. That's an incredibly low number. When you consider that Nigeria, the 6th largest country by population, which has 20 million less people, has 60 million literate women. 20 million less people than Nigeria, but they have 3 million more literate women. These are the things that I hope from conversations like this, what's happening back in Pakistan, take shape. Oh, listen, I'm a politician. There are plenty of things that the press writes that I don't like, and there is a role for the press. The press has to play it. It has to hold everybody accountable. And we should not live in fear of what it is that the press reports, but we should be talking about these things. We should be talking about what is happening to our friends and family back home, right? The fact that only 36% of the population has access to safe drinking water, that only 58% of the population has access to basic sanitation. And these are all the reasons why we left, right? I'm a boy from Jharkhand, Nazarabad. The fact that I'm standing here today, the fact that I am an elected official, something that I never thought would happen when I told my mother I was going to run for office. Her first words to me were, "Hassan Siyasat?" And I said, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. And I know we're going to talk about a lot of other things. I'll tell you the story. My father, who has since passed away, he was part of the student protests in the mid to late 60s against martial law and second fire. And he would have the fire hose turned on him. And they would go run and hide in whatever storefront that would take these kids who were pro-democracy protesters, right? So they had all these images and these harsh experiences in their bones of what they went through, what their fathers went through, what their brothers, their uncles, their cousins. And I will tell you, that is not what happens here. So if you take anything away from today, other than what is happening in Pakistan, my advice and my hope for everyone in this room is that you will push your children, your grandchildren, to get involved in politics, in government, in civics in this country. We live here, you live here, you pay taxes here, you should have a voice at the table here. It is important to talk about what is going on there. However, it is, in my opinion, equally, if not more important, to control what is going to happen here in the future, where we live.
Thank you so much, Kamala. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will be now introducing our rock star panelists here. We are just delighted to have with us a panel of our esteemed journalists and activists who have demonstrated incredible courage in the face of tyranny and have spoken truth to power time and time again. So this is not in any particular order. As soon as I make your introduction, please come to the stage and have a seat. The first person is Arifullah Ansar. Arif is a chief analyst at the Washington, D.C. based strategic advisory firm Polytech. It develops geopolitical risk and assessment, situational awareness, and strategy forecast from the vantage point of South Asia and Middle East. Please come to the stage. Next, Anwar Balsa. He's a journalist, a researcher, and a consultant. He has over 35 years of experience with various local international media organizations, including Dawn, the News, and United Press International, through which he covered major events. He interviewed world leaders like Barack Obama and George W. Bush. Eric Sterling. He's the executive director of the Washington, D.C.-based advocacy organization for Just Foreign Policy. His work focuses on educating and advising members of Congress and other U.S. policymakers about why he should reduce the harmful impacts of U.S. foreign policy and crafting campaigns that can change that. Emil Pirzada is an investigative journalist with nearly 2 decades of experience, specializing in reporting about government and corruption within the government sector. Throughout his career, he has consistently reported on corruption and misconduct by powerful military officers. This includes exposing former Army General Kamal Bajwa's corruption and assets. Next is Barrister Ihsan Amiruddin Sahab. He is a barrister at law from Lincoln's Inn, London. He practiced law for 17 years in Pakistan. He has also hosted current affairs program on leading news channels in Pakistan. Last but not least, we are going to invite Dr. Moeed Pirzada. He is a prominent public intellectual from South Asia. He is a known TV anchor. He's a known TV anchor, columnist, and editor, and is one of the most influential bloggers of South Asian communities in the US. He has a following of more than 5 million people on various social media platforms. He has worked with several top TV networks of Pakistan, including Geo, ARY, Dunia, and was part of PTV English state broadcasting. So, these are now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to introduce somebody who is in many ways an architect of this programming and helped us having these people, these esteemed journalists and activists be with us today. That is Dr. Usman Malik. He is the president of First Pakistan Global, a non-profit organization, and we also represent physician group of North America. So Dr. Usman Malik is going to come for a minute and talk about a couple of things that relate to this event and what we need to do or what we should be mindful of during this program. Dr. Usman Malik.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. So thank you so much, New Jersey community. Your passion is amazing. You guys are role models for rest of the states for this movement. We know that you guys all very patriotic Pakistani Americans, and I'm here representing American physician of Pakistani descent and First Pakistan Global. So basically, we are just working for democracy, rule of law, civil liberties, and constitution. Alhamdulillah, we are fortunate to be here in the United States, a nation where freedom of expression, civil rights, justice prevail. But with this freedom comes a responsibility that we cannot ignore. We are voice for 250 million of our brothers and sisters in Pakistan, people who are oppressed, silenced, and treated as slaves by those in power. In Pakistan, powerful few of the powerful elites, they have captured the whole nation. Few of the powerful elites and journals raised by the sacrifices of ordinary citizens now rule like mafias, crushing any dissent. They call us digital terrorists for standing up for truth and justice. And swear to God, these all are innocent, patriotic, Pakistani Americans, and none of them is digital terrorists. They have to understand that we have pain with our homeland. We feel for the miseries of our brothers and sisters, and we are standing with truth and justice. So please have a big heart and listen to this criticism, which is just for the improvement of our country. Our people are living in fear. They're stripped of their rights with no freedom of speech, no freedom of assembly. There is slavery, pure and simple slavery. These journals see themselves as untouchable, above the law, ruling with might and power. Even the judiciary is at their mercy, manipulated and intimidated into submission. But we, the overseas diaspora, have a duty to stand up. We cannot be silent while our homeland is turned into a dictatorship. The solution is clear: accountability for those who have violated the Constitution and end the military interference in politics and the restoration of civilian supremacy. We must demand justice and rule of law. Let us unite and be the force that reclaims Pakistan from the clutches of tyranny. Let us be the voice that demands freedom, democracy, and justice for all. In the end of this presentation, we will be adopting a resolution, which is the voice and demand of the community. And we will be moving towards that toward the end of this presentation. Now, with further ado, today I would like to invite Dr. Moeed Pirzada to start the program officially. Have a big round of applause for Dr. Moeed Pirzada. Assalamu alaikum.
I'm very confident and very surprised to see so many of you at one place. So I'm very grateful not only to the organizers, the facilitators, all the organized this first part of the Dr. Usman, to Tariq Khan Sahab, to Buddha Sahib, Saad Abasi Sahab, all the teams who have organized this, all of you who have traveled at such distance to be here. It's good to see, and we look forward to a productive, stimulative session and question answers. There is a question here. I hope it is distributed. There is but all questions can be asked. My job over there is also to be and what is the anchor, the moderation. So my goal and role would be to facilitate and try to bring and keep it in these questions, which are in front of us. Analysts can also be used. We're also seeing the digital terrorists. Can you believe this thing? That the Pakistani military leadership has spent close to 50 billion rupees. Can you believe this thing? That they have spent close to 50 billion rupees Pakistani taxpayer for the last 2 years. And this is the accepted amount which they have sanctioned into budgets. The budget of last year and this year to stop the social media. This is the amount they are actually spending. And this has been reported to Pakistan's English newspaper as like the Dawn and the Truth. So, and this is the kind of discussion that we want to stop. I was very heartened by the comments of Hafsan last month. I correctly got his name. Very, very interesting comments. So, just very quickly, before I go to it, was the moderator, I wanted to place myself in the center. Since first Pakistan, the organizers wanted us to stay within a certain channel. So about 15, 16 questions have been drafted. And we will try to, I also understand as a TV moderator, as a writer person, that not every question can be posed about some others. But I will try to keep on bringing the attention towards it. Keep me the background, the expertise of the thing that you keep on adding more comments about the background. So this is how we go about it. Which will help to and we also like to have question answer session. So with this, let me actually move here and then we can start this. Right? Thank you. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have somebody also joining us via Zoom. I believe his name is Ryan Graham. He is a co-founder of Cross-Site News and the host of the podcast Deconstructed. He was previously DC Bureau Chief of the Intercept and the Washington Bureau Chief for Huffington Post. When he led a team that was twice a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize and won one. So he will be joining us. Please give him a round of applause.
Ryan, Assalamualaikum. Good afternoon. I hope you can hear me. This is Moeed.
He's away from the mic right now.
Right. Ryan, this is Moeed. I hope you can hear me.
He's away from the mic.
Because I'm will actually continue with Ryan. None of you needs an introduction. We have the correspondent or indeed the set publication. Before this, we had the bureau chief of the, I think, Huffington and Washington. And I think he's fixing some only. Yes, see that. And before this, he was with authentic publications, the chief of authentic publications here in Washington. And recently, Brian and Toronto have left which is basically an investigative publication. It's not a newspaper, just like the separate section. Brian and his team, they're extensive government. Brian, this is Pirzada. Can you hear me? How do you hear Brian?
How are you? Can you hear me?
Brian, this is Moeed Pirzada.
Hey, Moeed.
Brian, can you hear me?
Yes, I gotcha.
Go ahead, you can try.
You try. Yes. Can you hear me? They may have. Is anybody able to hear me? Yep, we can hear you. Oh, great. Well, thank you, Moeed, for the kind words, and thanks everybody for inviting me here. I deeply appreciate it.
I think
Can you speak up?
I'm sure I relate to parliament questions about as Pakistan's foreign minister on behalf of Dunia Television News. And somehow they did the audio system that his voice and audio was never recorded, while mine was recorded. And so when we and no one checked that. And we went back into the TV station and we checked, the foreign minister's voice was missing. We ordered was the chairman, he thought that someone within the television channel has done a conspiracy. And so everybody was taken to task. So, but we couldn't fix it up. We hired a company. We paid raw money. We couldn't retrieve any voice from it. So ultimately, how to tell the foreign minister that the anchor's voice is there, but the foreign minister's voice has not been recorded. We told him, he refused accepting that. He had a difficult relationship with Asif Ali Zardari. He thought that Amir and Asif Ali Zardari had collaborated with each other so that his voice could not be recorded. Do happen actually went down. So, could we have any? We have time in between. Should we go ahead and start? Okay. So, let me actually take this thing to someone else. Anand Balsa, why don't we start from you and leave the questions upon you? We have seen all the 15 questions, right? And I can also remind the people that before joining, John, as correspondent, Anand Balsa had worked across the United States with a major publication in Chicago, Tribune, if I'm not wrong, after studying from United Kingdom. And he has been covering the US-Pakistan relationship very extensively from within Washington. Anyone who reads John has correspondent stories. So, Anand Balsa, you can pick up your own question to give us an idea as to how you're looking at the situation of Pakistan at the moment. Thank you very much. I think you have to do it.
Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Since I've already been introduced, so I'll reintroduce myself. We have been given what 15 questions that start with how the military intervention in Pakistan is affecting Pakistan from the United States. And now that is obviously a very obvious question. I want to know what is happening in Pakistan, three martial laws, then the fall, what we call the fall of East Pakistan, they call it the independence of Bangladesh. That happened. Then we developed martial law. And today I met some people here who went to Rutgers University, and there I told them that there's a book that is taught there. It's called One Word, Many Culture, which had a chapter that I wrote. The chapter was recited 15 lashes about the lashes that were administrated by the Zia regime in the 1980s. I was an eyewitness to it. There is another question further down on the list, which is about human rights in Pakistan. And in the chapter, I write in the article, which is about the election itself. But when I was there, I was very sad. There was another incident where there was a blind woman who had been raped. And she obviously got pregnant. So that was obvious that she had been raped. But because she was blind, she could not identify the offender. And therefore, the court decided that whenever she identifies and find the rapist, then we will punish him. Meanwhile, because she could not produce the rapist, so she must be flogged too. And that flogging was announced, and the stage was set in satellite on Rahul Pindi, and we all went there. And then better sense prevailed at the 11th hour. Some instructions came from, I think, the Supreme Court or another higher court, and the flogging was postponed. And the thing is that I sense, I think what I should even say then, I should use a strong word, I saw a sense of regret, loss in the crowd. They were there to watch a spectacle. They wanted to see this tamasha. And they were upset for being denied this. They wanted to see her being flogged. So when you have that type of attitude, and that is not their fault, that is how the society is, introducing the flogging, talking about committing torture, raping people, using rape as a way of punishment. Like Mia Tufel Muhammad al-Jumasani, I have nothing to do with Jumasani, but Mia Tufel Muhammad al-Jumasani was raped in prison. So, and many others. So,
Hey, you got me?
That kind of society that basically people just become insensitive. They upload
Sure.
Sounds good.
They upload torture, and they use
Okay.
their sense of direction. So,
Sure. Yeah.
Why is the army chief the most powerful person in Pakistan? That's something very obvious. Because
A little bit. I could hear it better.
Perception of power.
Yeah. Let me put it. Earbuds.
How to subdue others. Let's start from our home. See that? The toughest guy, the toughest brother in the family.
Yes, I can hear.
Is the one who actually has a say, and others are forced to listen to him or to her. And then you go out, you say that at the schools, you say that in your neighborhood, in your sort of in the game you play and everything, and it goes on and picks up as such. So when we have a culture like that, where power is everything, then obviously the most powerful controls everything. And power is not defined in the constitution of legal way. Power is defined as raw power. Somebody who has the stick, somebody who has the gun, somebody who can actually force things is a more powerful person. And in Pakistan, the army is the person who can actually force you to do things. So he is the most powerful person unless he change, and that we need a new narrative for this. But unless that can happen, unless these corrective measures are taken, this is not going to change.
Arun, also, we're also trying to get Ryan in. One or two things I want to insert. I would also like to add to what you have said. Also, I want to know from the people, apart from the fact that Ryan and Eric are there, is there anyone else you're not familiar with? Anyone else here who's not familiar with Urdu? Right? You're not familiar with Urdu? Yeah, because I was thinking that maybe the session will be more facilitated if you make it a mixed language in the schools. So I just feel that it might actually be a gap. So if it is not affecting many people, maybe we can actually go towards a mixed discourse in both the languages, which is English, or what we call English, right? So, right, Eric and Ryan and the others can, we won't be there to explain to you, right? But we can actually be using the next languages, right? Right. So, are we ready to take Ryan in? Are we? So, should I go towards Ryan? Okay. Ryan, this is Moeed Pirzada from New Jersey. Can you now hear me? I want to hear the voice.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much. Good to see you. I hope you can hear the clapping.
No, I wish I could be there in person, but I'm glad that I could join you by this complicated effort. And next time that you're in person, I hope that I can be there in person and meet everybody there. Just want to thank you, Moeed, for the kind words that you said earlier about the work that we've been doing, and it's been quite a journey that we've been on.
Right, thank you. So good to see you. We understand that you were traveling. Given the fact that you're not a political animal of Pakistan's internal political scene, I would make it much more simpler for you to ask a more broader question. Since you have been possessed by looking at the Pakistani internal dynamics and its interaction with the Washington politics, how, after almost 2 years of this passionate journey of discovering Pakistan, how do you look at the situation? What would you like to tell us?
I mean, one thing I've been noticing, and maybe this doesn't come as a shock to anybody else, but I've been stunned by the bizarre reach for the Jewish conspiracy to explain some of my reporting. You know, in the United States, we have a significant amount of anti-Semitism, and it needs to be called out here, but I've never seen it at the highest levels of the government establishment, the way that it seems to be carried out in Pakistan, as this way to kind of extract from any responsibility for anything that the establishment or the government has done wrong. That's been quite extraordinary. It's also been wild to have that accusation thrown around at the same time that our news organization, well, previously Intercepted, now Just I News, has been among the most critical, even when it comes to our coverage of Israel's genocide in Gaza. It seems like and what I've noticed is that there seems to be an amateurish and contradictory nature to so much of what the military establishment does, that you just kind of poke at it in the gentlest way, and it just completely how long you can kind of keep this together. But it is interesting, as somebody who covers a lot of different countries, it does seem like when it comes to Pakistan, and also I see it with Egypt somewhat as well, that this intense control by the military of the kind of mechanisms of the economy does so much to suppress the potential of the Pakistani people, of the Pakistan economy. Also, and it even seems like at this point, even the military is finding it hard to skim off the top because the economy is in such shambles at this point. It feels like there's so much more that could be unleashed, but there is a standoff, and it certainly seems like the military shows no sign of ever being willing to get back off willingly.
Yes. Yeah. Regarding the first puzzle, the paradox, I think in Pakistan, we're very used to blaming everything we don't like on India and Israel. So to that extent, it explains why they even see you as some sort of Zionist agent. But given the fact that you have also been bureau chief of Wellington Post radio publication within the United States, and given your background into the US media, can you explain to the audience over here, the Pakistani Americans, that given all of what has happened in Pakistan, including the murder of prominent television anchor persons, the treatment to the media, the journalists running away from Pakistan, the massive human rights violations, thousands of people being picked up, why has Pakistan not been able to become a major story for a liberal publication like New York Times or Washington Post or New Yorker over the past 2 years? Why they have not been able to pick on Pakistan?
I've actually talked to some high-level editors at some of these major newspapers about this very question, and the answer is roughly twofold. One is that there have been major storylines when it comes to U.S. audiences that they care about when it comes to foreign policy. That was for a little while. That was Russia, Ukraine, and after that, it is Israel, Gaza, with some openness for some articles about China and the threatening things that China is doing, or the things that we're doing to China. And if a story doesn't fit into any of those slots, then the only other way that it is able to get significant attention is if it is the bad behavior of a U.S. adversary. So Venezuela, for instance, or Cuba at times, or maybe even Nicaragua, a tiny country, but it has a adversarial posture toward the United States, then it's easier to get coverage in the American press. If it's bad behavior by a U.S. ally, that just doesn't rise to the level of something that American editors are interested in exploring. And you can get into the deeper cultural reason why that is, but I think that's really what's going on.
Okay, just let me address two more questions at least directly related to this. Given what has happened in Pakistan, and every value that is espoused and preached by the Democratic Party, by the Biden administration, or by the US as such, what has happened in Pakistan? Like 10,000 people picked up within 24 hours, human rights violations, media silence and gagged. Why has this not become an issue for Biden administration over the past 28 months? Why there has not been a single strong, yes, the Congress has taken a position in the House Resolution 901, but why the Biden administration and Department of State not being able to take a strong position even once? Why?
There are geopolitical reasons that the United States is willing to either accept or encourage everything that is going on in Pakistan. Some of it is just inertia. And I think Eric Sterling might be well positioned to answer some of these questions. Some of it is just inertia. This is what State Department, this is what the United States does. It's always been what they do, and they're just going to continue to do it, even if it's not working, and even if it's not working out for U.S. interests. But I think a layer below that, there are geopolitical interests related to India and China that are even beyond what we're able to report out and comprehend things going on behind the scenes that we don't have access to yet. We're working on different reporting lines that I hope will help us to unravel some of that, to unspool some of that. But I think it's that Pakistan gets treated as almost less than a pawn in a game that is being carried out by players at a very high level.
So you being right between Washington and Syria, what would you tell the Pakistani American community? How can we change this calculus of thinking within the battlefield politics?
I mean, what people understand in Washington are votes and money and political activity. And they also understand easy decisions. For many years, for instance, the pro-Israel lobby, AIPAC, made the question of whether or not a member of Congress was a diehard supporter of Israel an easy question. Because if they were a supporter of Israel, they would get financial support, they would get votes, they would get political support. If they were an opponent of Israel, they would get attacked by AIPAC. And there was no one on the other side that was going to, in an organized fashion, support a candidate who was a critic of Israel. There just wasn't the kind of organized, kind of pro-Palestinian faction. And so members of Congress looked at that question and said, this is easy. I know what I believe on this issue right here. And so because the question of human rights in Pakistan is not a major issue that members of Congress think about, if they see that there are advantages to taking the right position, a good position on that question, and there really aren't any disadvantages, I think you can make a lot of progress. Because there's no lobby pushing against human rights in Pakistan. The State Department is, but the State Department isn't pushing kind of individual members of Congress for the most part. So there is a lot of gain to be made when it comes to power in Washington quickly over the next couple of years. It's if AIPAC is say out of 100, I don't think the diaspora lobby can get there anytime quickly, but you could get 30% of them there, which still is an enormous amount of clout in Washington.
So Ryan, Eric Sterling of the Just Foreign Policy, with whom you're familiar, is also here. I think we have lost him. Are we not hearing him?
Here.
Okay. I want to basically ask one or two questions to Eric Sterling. I hope you can hear that. And I want to come back to you with a question which I want to release, like an advanced question from a chat paper. And that is that many Pakistanis hope that the Trump's arrival in the White House potentially would change the purpose and dynamics of White House towards Pakistan. So how do you look at it? This is the question for you. But hold on to the question and let me get to Eric Sterling. Eric, with your experience of the internal dynamics of the Congress, because you've been working inside the Congress, and as I understand over the last several months, you played a lot of roles to help Just Foreign Policy, the other Pakistani groups, in letting them understand through your insights as to how to go about it. First of all, just give us an idea of how this dramatic vote of 368 versus 7 took place. Like, or in Trump's language, with both. How does Yeah, well, thanks so much. First of all, it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be here and get to know people in this community. I've heard a lot about the Jersey, Pakistani American community, so it's great to be here. I think in the last, can folks hear me okay? I think there's been a lot of progress in the last few years, but we still see the long way to go. Specifically on the HRES 901 vote, there's a long backstory there, but I think the short version is we have terrific activism from this community that's kind of getting to know members of Congress, making contacts at the local level, being connected in the House Foreign Affairs Committee. It created so much pressure that even the House Foreign Affairs Committee felt that they needed to do something. They couldn't be silent on this, which they would have historically preferred to be silent. So let's keep US out, let's keep quiet, let them handle it. They had to do something. And then as the situation continued to, there's really no improvement, they actually strengthened that resolution. They added in the need for essentially reviewing the results of the election, investigating the election, which was really a strengthened position. And then I won't get into too many details, but the community last minute, pushed for a recorded vote to say that every member of Congress should take 15 minutes to be on the floor of Congress, thinking about Pakistani democracy and casting a vote. And of course, the result was that the overwhelming majority, virtually every member of Congress voted in favor of it. And, I think that's just kind of the sign of where this community can go. Is just at the start. If people we're working with the community, it's an incredibly impressive community that's just getting kind of learning the basics about how to engage at that level. And just another year or two, hopefully folks in this room will be part of that effort in terms of, talking to your congressional office, who is the foreign policy staffer, being friends with them, keeping in touch with them, having a relationship. And, before long, you can see something like what APAC does. APAC has a much tougher job in a sense because what they're doing is, generally speaking, extremely unjust, horrific in many cases. In this case, it's just a classic democracy versus autocracy story. And this is one of the things in Washington that's been so heartbreaking and shocking for many is this is supposedly what Washington stands up for. And now we have the quintessential case. I mean, this is just as clear cut as it gets. You have corrupt military business interests, aligning with the U.S. and with U.S. kind of bureaucrats who are in the State Department supporting them. And then you have the massive people with young people using social media. You have dissident journalists. We're tying into it. Despite this massive display of consensus in HR 91, like it was House of demanding the Biden administration to do the three things like restore democracy, election, the Biden administration need to be doing nothing to implement any of the demands. Of course, it is not binding of the Congress. What is the firewall that stops the Biden administration? Yeah, so this is a great question. So this is, for example, the folks at APAC, they figured this out, and I hope over time, I've seen other communities figure this out. I think over a short period of time, this community will see this as well. They're essentially calling the bluff. The State Department is calling the bluff of this community. They're saying, we think that was a great effort, but we don't think that community is going to continue to stay engaged at that level. We don't think they're going to develop the sophistication to bring new resolutions or bring new efforts that keep the pressure on. So they're saying, that's essentially what they're betting on, is hoping that the community will feel satisfied, will go back to their work, and many people here work very hard, and an incredible amount of, incredibly impressive, successful people. So they hope people will go back to their jobs, and they hope that the streets will quiet down in Pakistan, and then that the State Department officials can go back to their previous life where they didn't have to worry about what Congress, with Pakistani Americans is saying. So that is essentially the open question. I personally am betting that the community is going to continue to develop itself, continue to learn more about how to engage. in that it would be just a short period of time before the pressure is too much for the White House to ignore. But that's their path. Okay. So I'll come back to this, and of course we'll have the questions, but let me get back to Ryan. Ryan, are you there? Did you hear me? Ryan.
Yes, I can.
Okay. You had the question to ponder and think on. So many Pakistanis hope that with Trump becoming the president, there would be some sort of change in White House or the administration's attitude or lens of looking at Pakistan. What do you think?
I think it's possible. Trump is does seem to have some significant sympathy for Imran Khan, and that matters. At the same time, Trump is the kind of person. It only matters in some ways, like who was the last person to talk to Trump before he makes a decision. And so that requires a lot of lobbying, a lot of understanding of who's in Trump's inner circle, and it also requires a lot of lobbying. It's just completely random. I think I think that back in Pakistan, probably the intelligence over there does worry that Trump might be more favorable toward the PTI, which could also kind of make for a dangerous moment. If you remember, back in 1960, Eisenhower was seen to be rather hostile to Patrice Lumumba in Congo. Lumumba was in prison. JFK's inner circle was known to be much more sympathetic to the democratic aspirations of Lumumba. And after Kennedy was elected, but before Kennedy was inaugurated, they assassinated Lumumba in prison, so that Kennedy never had a chance to free him. So that's something that I would keep in the back of my mind. Kamala Harris is a total blank slate, but we don't know what her position is on virtually anything, let alone this.
Okay, just let me ask the last question on this. You said it depends upon who the Trump's inner circle are or is. So now every US president brings a cabinet, a sort of a cabinet, the system of spoils. Can you give us an educated idea of who will be probably the people close to him as Secretary of State, Deputy Secretary of State, as Director CIA, as Secretary of Defense, as an NSA, as Deputy NSA? Who will be the people who will be around Trump?
Well, we don't know yet, and much of it will depend on who wins the fight over who becomes chief of staff. Like, if Trump is elected, like the main fight is first for chief of staff, and if that is a kind of isolationist Republican, somebody who's kind of Trumpian, then you're more likely to get somebody who's who's more sympathetic. And it is not trying to create alliances with an illegitimate kind of military government. But it all is elastic and malleable, and it remains to be seen. I mean, this is something that we'll be reporting on. I think you mentioned this earlier. Pirzada and I have left the Intercept, and with some other colleagues from the Intercept, we launched our new publication, Dropside News. And we'll be covering that closely. It's a live fight. It's unknowable, and it's unknowable partly because Trump is so unpredictable. But because of the program I do on the Breaking Points channel, which has two conservative Republican hosts as well. We have pretty good access into the Republican and Trump circles. So we'll be following it very closely, but it's impossible to know yet.
Ryan, thank you. If you have the time on the schedule, you can stay with us because I want to return to the panel here as well. And I hope you can hear the panel.
Were you able to hear what Eric said?
Yes.
Okay. If you can stay with us, if you don't have to go, you can stay with us. Let me.
Okay.
Yeah. So are you with us?
I'll try.
Okay. Okay. So let me come back to the panel. You heard Sarah Sahab, Arif Sahab, Rani Sahab, you heard both Brian Bruno and Chevening. How would you continue this discourse? What is that you have to offer? Barrister Sahab, you want to make it a question. Arif Sahab, you want to make it a question. I'm just leaving it.
I think some of the things are known. So I think Trump, if he becomes the president, the nomination of J.D. Vance. So he's made some statements, obviously, and seems like on the grander scale, as it relates to great power rivalry, he's going to be tough on China, but he wants to cut a deal on Ukraine. Ukraine, as Trump wants, and says, and on the broader scale, understanding like you were mentioning, if Trump comes into power, how would policy be, how would it be towards South Asia, for example? Another thing we know is the continuation of Abraham Accords. So Trump was the one who initiated and led to the UAE and others, Bahrain and others signing on and recognizing Israel. So right now things are looking pretty bad, as we know, and we don't know if Netanyahu even wants to continue with the two-state solution. Because I think he sees it that he has everything going for him in the sense of, I mean, not in the public discourse, but in the sense of influence, because there are major Arab countries who are on the path, recognizing and even Saudi Arabia. And these are the major financial backers of Pakistan. So if the path of two-state solution continues, and probably Trump will continue it if he comes into power at whatever the stage is at that point,
Highly likely. He would highly likely.
He would continue with that, and we would say, okay, and that would mean, recognition of this. And if Saudi's demand is that as long as there is a two-state solution, they would like to proceed as well. And presently, obviously, it would involve support for humanitarian support for Gaza and so on and so forth. And that would create increased challenges in South Asia and for Pakistan as well in the context. So those are the two things that stand out in the sense of the outlook. Now, as far as the other aspect of, like you had asked earlier, what are the impediments? You had asked Eric, why do these things don't get implemented when the resolution was passed? So we saw a recent example of that, and you covered it in one of your programs as well, the Washington Post article, as it relates to Bangladesh, and how the Indian lobby was playing out, and how they are saying that if the military goes, if the opposition, the BNP party comes in, or the it was not the Indian lobby. And that too as well. Yes, and the article says that we had the administration had to appease. So, that is probably one of the indications that one of the other impediments that how that role extends to Pakistan. So, if I may add one more aspect, that we often get the question, and there was a debate last night at one of the dinner parties as well, that are the problems Pakistan is facing internal causes or external causes? So, and I would hypothesize that it's mostly the outside dynamic, the great power drivers again. What's happening in Pakistan has a lot to do with that as well. And I'll stop here.
बिल्कुल सही मैं साथ थोड़ा सा ये भी कह दूं कि एहसास हो रहा है कि मैं आपको पता है इसका डाटा एनालिस्ट की थी बट दोस्ती इंग्लिश चैनल से मैंने काम किया है पाकिस्तान में और वो सारे फ्लॉप हो गए कि पूरी तरह से फ्लॉप हो गए वो तक कि पाकिस्तान के लोगों को उसमें बड़ा जाता है just जिसको कहते हैं just उनको बिल्कुल जब तक जुबान है उसका पीडीएफ है बड़ी चीज तो पता चल कि आप फील फ्री टू एक्सप्रेस इट इसको आप इंग्लिश में भी ले जाएं और उसको थोड़ा सा उर्दू में भी बताएं पहले से सब जो कहानी है बता रहे हैं कुछ सवाल उन्होंने बना लिए 16-17 पहुंच के लेकिन यहाँ पे कुछ समझ आ रही है कि बाहर के मामला नहीं है जिस किस्म के फासले प्रेशर के वैसे नहीं करी थी मेजर सिनेरियो की एक तरह से प्राइम मिनिस्टर इमरान खान को ट्रम्प पसंद करते हैं, वो वापस आ जाते हैं। दूसरी साइड से वो कहते हैं कि अब इसराइल को रेकग्नाइज करना है, सऊदी अरब को भी रेकग्नाइज कर रहे हैं, तो क्या करना होगा पाकिस्तान? Thank you very much, Dr. First of all, my gratitude to all the organizers. Sir, ऐसे आ गए वो मुझे गाड़ी पे आ गए। Now, Dr. Saab has spoken for like more than 20 minutes. Doctor, so can you hear me at the back? All right. So now that I've started on, he's just asking me to get back to our national language, and of course we're very proud of it. So basically, ये जो सवाल डॉक्टर साहब ने मुझे दिया ये इसके ऊपर आता हूँ थोड़ी देर में। जो ये डिस्कशन हो रही है और ये जो इवेंट है इसके हवाले से जो एक आपने स्केलेटन आर्गुमेंट या क्वेश्चन एक बनाया था, उसमें बुनियादी तौर पर सवाल ये था that what actually is the problem with the Pakistani system? पाकिस्तान के साथ मसला क्या है? मिलिट्री इंटरवेंशन का एक मसला है, how do we resolve that problem? और फिर ह्यूमन राइट्स का यहाँ पे जिक्र है। Quickly I just talk about human rights and then I'll proceed further. देखिए ये तो बहुत क्लियर है that human rights emerge from the natural law, right to life, right to food, right to health. On the other side, fundamental rights, just like freedom of speech, liberty, right of assembly. Pakistan तरीके से बहुत सारे प्रिंसिपल्स रखे करने की कोशिश करती है पाकिस्तान में, but every single time the white से 44 स्वाब नाफिज हो जाती है। तो मैंने तो ये भी कहा था अपने एक व्लॉग में कि ये एक नई दफा 144 इजाद की है PDF1 ने और PDF2 ने कि जिधर जिधर इमरान खान जाता है पीछे पीछे दफा 144 आती है। बाकी कोई भी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी कहीं भी जलसा करने के लिए आजाद है। पाकिस्तान में जो प्रॉब्लम है ना कि जब हम पढ़ रहे थे लॉ in the first year and we were being taught jurisprudence, which is the legal philosophy, तो सबसे पहली चीज उसमें थी that what is the definition of law? There is no one single definition of law. There are different schools of thought. But the first definition of law that most of the jurists accept was given by Jane Austen. And he said that law is the command of sovereign backed by sanction. In other words, or yes. So this was the first definition of law. Command of sovereign backed by, there is a sovereign, there is one who is most powerful. उसका हुक्म है, वो नहीं मानोगे तो सजा मिलेगी। Later on, when people started debating over this definition, they said, यार ये तो बड़ा limited scope है। एक बंदा all powerful है, वो कहता है ये कानून है, जो वो कह रहा है जो उसका हुक्म है वो कानून है और जो नहीं मानेगा उसको सजा मिलेगी। हमारे हकूक है, ह्यूमन राइट्स, फंडामेंटल राइट, उसको फिर आहिस्ता आहिस्ता जूरिस्प्रूडेंस ने इवॉल्व किया। फिर उसमें प्रोफेसर हार्ट भी है, डॉकिन भी है, जर्मनी में है, बहुत सारे स्कूल्स ऑफ थॉट, मार्क्सिज्म, फेमिनिज्म, हर किसी ने अपने मुताबिक उसको डिफाइन करने की कोशिश की। द प्रॉब्लम विद पाकिस्तान टुडे इज दैट वी आर स्टिल स्टक with the definition of John Austin. The Pakistani society is still there. Apparently, we do have a constitution that talks about fundamental rights. We do have a Elections Act 2017 that talks about the free, fair, transparent election. But in practice, it is the definition given by Jane Austen that has been implemented in Pakistan, particularly for the last 2.5 years. एक हुक्मनामा आता है, शादी फरमान आता है, आप उसको माने, अगर आप नहीं मानेंगे तो इसका जो हल मैं अक्सर ये बात करता हूँ। I remember when I was in government college Lahore, we used to participate in debates. One of our friends wrote a poem about the situation in Pakistan, and this was like 23 years ago, no, 25, 26 years ago. And that was the time Pakistan was celebrating its golden jubilee. Abhi 77 बरस हो गए हैं आजाद हुए, hence
even today when I think about that poem and I recite it, it is equally relevant to the Pakistani society and the circumstances. The point was that Pakistan is a country where the constitution is nothing but a big joke, where the national exchequer has gone broke, where all popular corruption is the order of the day, and bribery and nepotism are what paved the way. Where big fat lazy bones figure in the government staff and incompetent servants make up the other half. Where the production is on the low and inflation on the rise, where 4 elections in 6 years is no big surprise. Where the integrities are on sale to anyone who buys, where the country is burning and no one cries. All this is what our history and still be understood. Wow. ये जो डॉक्टर साहब ये जो अल्फाज है अब ये मतलब कि मैं था 18 साल का जब मैं गवर्नमेंट कॉलेज शुरू करता आज I'm going to be 43 this month by the way, and it is still so relevant when it comes to Pakistan. अब देखना हमने ये है कि हमने इसको चेंज कैसे किया. What is the way forward? इसमें बहुत सारी बातें हैं. डॉक्टर साहब अक्सर इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस की बहुत बात करते हैं. इंटरनल फैक्टर्स हैं, एक्सटर्नल फैक्टर्स हैं. ट्रम्प आएगा नहीं आएगा, आएगा तो क्या सपोर्ट करेगा. मेरी कुछ लोगों से यहाँ पे बात हुई है, वो कहते हैं कि हमें नहीं लगता कि करेगा उस वक्त तक जितना कि पाकिस्तानियों की एक्सपेक्टेशन है, लेकिन कुछ ना कुछ तो फर्क होगा. कुछ फर्क पड़ेगा जी. जो अभी रेजिम है उसके हिसाब से. पर देखें कोई ट्रम्प या कोई भी एक्सटर्नल फोर्स आपके हालात नहीं बदल सकती है. ये अल्लाह ताला ने कुरान में भी लिख दिया ना कि जिसको खुद अपनी हालत बदलने का एहसास नहीं है उसकी हालत नहीं बदली जाती. सो अभी जो सिचुएशन है पाकिस्तान में, मैं तो उससे होपफुल. अच्छा, मैं होपफुल क्यों डॉक्टर? मैं इस वजह से होपफुल हूँ, इसमें कोई शक ही नहीं है कि रात बहुत अंधेरी है, बहुत गहरी है. लेकिन ये भी हमने देखा है कि सूरज तलू होने से पहले रात सबसे ज्यादा अंधेरी हो. कल रात को बात हो रही थी एक जगह पे और वहां पे ये बात सामने आई कि हल क्या है. तो ओवरनाइट तो कोई हल नहीं है. 77 साल के मसाइल है. It is an evolutionary process that we have to go through as a nation. उसमें थोड़ा सा वक्त लगेगा, लेकिन अब भी मुझे लगता है कि हालात उस नहज को पहुंच गए हैं कि कम से कम एक कलेक्टिव सोच तो पैदा हुई है ना. ये इवेंट्स हो रहे हैं सर, पहले इस तरह से इवेंट्स नहीं होते थे. लोग यहाँ पे आप लोग पाकिस्तानी को मेरे ख्याल में हम लोगों को सुनने से ज्यादा आज से कोई मेरे ख्याल में कोई 7 साल पहले या 2-2.5 साल पहले आई डोंट नो खान साहब ने आके वैसे काफी चीजें बदल दी हैं, लेकिन आप लोग शायद नुसरत राहत फतेह खान को बुला के यहाँ पे इवेंट कोई करते, या किसी सिंगर को बुला के, या किसी मॉडल एक्टर को बुला सही है. ऐसी डिस्कशन होती थी पाकिस्तानी राइट एंड कम्युनिटी में आज से 2 साल बस. अब आपके लिए बहुत ही करेंगे, आप सोच के सवाल आपके यहाँ पे बैकग्राउंड के हिसाब से. हम तो 2022 में नए इंसानी हकूक का ख्याल पैदा हुआ और फिगर ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन का. उससे पहले हमारे तो महफूज थे, लेकिन आपने तो जब से सहाफत का आगाज किया देख रहे पाकिस्तान में कैसे हुकूमत. तो आपको क्या समझ आ गया है कि पिछले 2 साल गुजरे हैं, इसमें क्या फर्क पड़ा है कि सभी की चीजें नहीं हुआ क्या? मैं कहता है कि जो एक राय है कि बहुत ज्यादा जुल्म हुआ है, उसको एक डिफरेंट अंदाज से देखता हूँ. मेरे ख्याल में जो एस्टेब्लिशमेंट है, जो डीप स्टेट है, जो कि फोर्ड और ISI मुश्किल है, ये समझ है कि लेजिटिमेट रूलर्स है ना, गैर कानूनी तौर पे काबिज है, ताकत और इख्तियार इक़्तिदार उनके पास है, उनके गैर कानूनी है. और ताकत समझ है कि करप्ट करती है और एब्सोल्यूट पावर करप्ट एब्सोल्यूटली. तो ये लोग हमेशा से ऐसे थे. इनकी इख्तियार, इनकी स्ट्रेटजी, मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग में हमेशा से ऐसी थी कि अपने क्रिटिक्स को और अपने मुखालिफिन को इसी तरीके से निशाना बनाते थे. फर्क सिर्फ ये है जिसको आप महसूस कर रहे हैं या बहुत मुख्तलिफ तरीके से बयान करते हैं. फर्क ये पड़ा कि पहले इनको इतनी रेजिस्टेंस नहीं मिलती थी जितनी पिछले 2 सालों में इनको जब सरकार कह रही है तो मैं आपको यकीन से कह सकता हूँ on the basis of my discussion with the officials will involve होते हैं क्योंकि लेकिन आपको मेरे से बहुत ज़्यादा एक्सपीरियंस होगा लोगों से डील करने का कि वो इससे भी खतरनाक तरीके से डील करते हैं जितना आप वजाहत बढ़ाते जाएंगे तो ये जो गैर जरूरी कागज हैं ये उतनी ही ज्यादा सख्ती के साथ ये आगे चले जाएंगे लेकिन इसी तौर पे कोई ब्रेकिंग पॉइंट आएगा इसका भी मेरे ख्याल में रंगीवाद और करूंगा मैं करूंगा बस साहब के यकीनी तौर पे यहाँ से जो भी हो जाए उसका फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा जहाँ से अमेरिका से जो भी होगा वो पाकिस्तान के अंदर जो इन्वेस्टर्स है उसको बढ़ाना पड़ेगा जायज कागज कभी भी नहीं छोड़ते मैं एक चीज जरूर कहूंगा मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग में ये डिसीजन यहाँ पे ट्रम्प की अंडरस्टैंडिंग बल्कि बहुत डेफिनेटली मैं कह देता हूँ पहला तो ये कि मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग में मैं इस मैंने चीजों को देखता हूँ मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग में अभी स्पेशल प्लेयर नहीं है बहुत मिलेगा ये मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग आपको जो बहुत सारा अंडरस्टैंडिंग लगता है कि नंबर 1 नंबर 2 मैं ये भी समझता हूँ कि ट्रम्प नहीं कुछ करेंगे पॉजिटिवली तो आप लोग सोचेंगे अभी ये मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग है अब उसकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग की बेसिस ये है जो मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग है उसकी बेसिस ये है कि अमेरिका में भी सामने सेपरेशन है एक हुकूमत है ये निजाम को चला रहे हैं दुनिया के अंदर इनको उस तरह के ममालिक में भी पॉकेट चाहिए अगर तो कोई पॉकेट होगा तो ये उसके लिए कुछ करेंगे इनके जहनों में जो एक तासुर की शख्सियत के बारे में बिठाया जा चुका है मेरे ख्याल में ट्रम्प भी यही से नहीं लेगा इस तरीके आखिरी पॉइंट ये है कि अगर ट्रम्प करेंगे बात करेंगे अब ये लगे मेरे मसले इसको इसके ऊपर में राइट कर सकते हैं 10 साल 20 साल अगर ट्रम्प कर भी थे तो ये मैं प्रेसिडेंट के हक में बात नहीं करना लेकिन मेरे ख्याल में वो इतने जाहिर लोग हैं या कांग्रेस का विषय वो इस हद तक है कि वो मुकाबला करेंगे और वो नहीं मानेंगे जो भी वही वाली बात कि जब लोग उठेंगे लोग तब्दीली लेके आएंगे बाहर की ऐसी तब्दीली वैसे भी कभी देर पा नहीं होगी एक थोड़ा सा मैं चाहूंगा कि हम क्वेश्चन की रेंज आप कहते हैं कि जो इंप्रेशन बन चुका है ट्रम्प उसको बदल नहीं सकते पाकिस्तान का इंप्रेशन पाकिस्तान का इंप्रेशन किस चीज का जो भी इससे आपको की बात करते आप टॉपिक आता है ये इस तरह से नहीं होता कि कोई किसी को अच्छा समझ गया तो उसके लिए अमेरिकन गवर्नमेंट में बैठ के या अमेरिकी सदर बन के वो उसके लिए कुछ बेहतर कर देगा इस तरह से नहीं हो रहा था मुल्कों के इंटरेस्ट होते हैं और वो चाहते हैं अपने इंटरेस्ट के मुताबिक चलते हैं ट्रम्प जब भी कुछ इंटरनेशनल लेवल की इस तरह की मूव करेगा तो वो कुछ ना कुछ फीडबैक जरूर मिलेगा अब वो फीडबैक इदारों की तरफ से आएगा ट्रम्प के तो आसपास लोग होंगे उनकी तरफ से आएगा तो वो फीडबैक अमेरिकन एस्टेब्लिशमेंट जो मौजूदा यहाँ पे ट्रांसफर न किया ट्रांसफर इस हवाले से स्टेट डिपार्टमेंट बनाता है तो स्टेट डिपार्टमेंट का यही ट्रांसफर है इमरान खान के बारे में कि वो सख्त आदमी है उनको आप हर बात के ऊपर अपनी बात आराम से नहीं मनवा सकेंगे वो अपना फैसला लेने उसके ऊपर आइडेंटिटी ट्रांसफर है जो मुसलसल 2-3 साल पीछे क्या लोगों की वजह से वो बहुत से किसी जगह पे इतना सख्त ना भी हो मानने की सही क्या पाई जाती है मेरे ख्याल में अगर ट्रम्प आते हैं इसका मेरे ख्याल में बिल्कुल फाइनल मैं अपना नहीं बना सका जो मैंने देखा है यहाँ पे तो अगर आते हैं उन्हें कहा भी जाएगी मेरा ख्याल कि ऐसा होगा ये चीज इस तरह से होती भी नहीं मुख्तलिफ बाजार में चीजें चलती हैं और बल्कि अगर आप लोग स्ट्रगल कर रहे हैं तो अपने जो नॉर्मल में जाके आ रहे हैं आपको तो ये होप करनी चाहिए कि उससे पहले से खबर आ जाए अक्सर यूनिवर्सिटी में डिस्कस होती है कि बहुत अजीब से कोई रियलिस्टिक बेसिस नहीं बहुत ओवर एक्सपेक्टेशन
it was right. Pakistan ground road is responsible. And the whole question was, in my hands, considering Pakistan's current economic collapse, political instability, rampant human rights abuses, suppression of media and growing poverty, extrajudicial killings, abductions, suppression of dissent, completely manipulated the great elections, and the erosion of constitutional governance. Who do you believe is mainly responsible for Pakistan in this? And there are four names. And then there were five options. Asking as a lower individual, the four written. One is Justice Qazi Faiz Isa. Second is Prime Minister Shahbaz Singh. Third option was Asif Ali Zardari. The fourth was General Asif Moeed, and the fifth and one of you. So, not all people have been able to vote. There have been 305 votes. I think it's very, very big vote. And 16.2, 43 votes designated Justice Qazi Faiz Isa is responsible, which is 16.25% of the vote that has been cast. 21 votes basically Shahbaz Isa को यहाँ भी ज़्यादा vote मिले. So that is what is significant governments मिलेंगे. तो 21 votes of मिले. Or Prime Minister, that makes it 25% of the vote. President Asif Ali Zardari has even fared worse than Shahbaz Singh. That is his governance. Bala vote for the Shahbaz Singh was responsible, which is only 6.25% of the vote. And General Asif Ali lost 201 votes. 68.25% of the vote, so basically take almost 70% of the people also who think the Pakistan के मौजूदा मसाइल की जिम्मेदारी जो है वो जनरल आसिफ मोदी साहब की है. हमारे छात्रों को रिजाइन की वजह से नहीं कोई सिचुएशन होता. 9% जो है वो समझते हैं कि सारे के सारे जो है ज्यादा रिस्पॉन्सिबल है इसकी सिचुएशन के लिए. अभी टोल की सीट प्रेसिडेंसी होगी आपको भी आएगी उसमें गवर्नमेंट शुरू करने के लिए आप व्हाट्सएप उसको शेयर कीजिए. सभी पैनलिस्ट एक प्रकार ये सुधार हो चुके हैं. आई वुड लाइक कि आप ऐसे पहले वेबसाइट से रजिस्टर कर दोनों क्वेश्चन के लिए ताकि ज़्यादा लोगों को मौका दें. एक क्वेश्चन पूछे, क्विक अपना नाम बताएं और खड़े हैं अपने आप को इंट्रोड्यूस करें. क्वेश्चन पूछे जब आपने वेबसाइट नहीं है किसी आवाज से पूछे. सो आप पूछना चाहिए क्या क्वेश्चन है तो आप पूछना चाहिए सर. I just want to say, I just want to that Trump is on record, actually, that he will call Pakistan to get Imran Khan released. Yes, he made a statement. Yes, I think twice he is ready. My name is Robert. And my question is because one is from Nelson and profound belief that the oppressed and the oppressed, respectful of their humanity, the people of Pakistan today face a pivotal moment in their history in the face of injustice, ignorance, and tyranny. What form of surge is needed and what kind of surety is needed more than critical now? Thank you so much, Mr. Masudi and Dr. Taking inspiration from Nelson Mandela. given Pakistan's present situation, what kind of, response is needed? Basically, you said, take all the questions.
और सवाल का मेरा नाम नजीब खान है।
आपका नाम क्या है?
नजीब खान। मुझे आप सब इन लोग से आपको से सवाल पूछने हैं कि पाकिस्तान में जिस समय जहाँ पे कहते पाकिस्तान से वहाँ से लोगों ने एक दबाव पड़ेगी। एक क्वेश्चन वहाँ पर जो आजकल रेज होता है कि पंजाब क्यों नहीं हुई, पंजाब क्यों नहीं आवाज उठी। हमारे को बड़ा वक्त था तो कोई नहीं बोला था, पंजाब में बोला था, बलूचिस्तान में बड़ा वक्त आया वो नहीं बोले, अब इनके अपने पर वक्त आया अब भी नहीं बोले और कब बोलेंगे।
So history energy, that is very interesting question. I started talking about the what's an extra is about it. But I believe that जैसे मैंने आपसे कहा ना, जो एक general argument मुझे जो समझ आता था, आपके जो political commentator या analyst, वो ये समझ आता है कि आप कभी भी evolution के process को skip नहीं कर सकते। मैंने रात को भी बोला था कि इर्तिका एक नाकाबिल तग़य्युर तो मालूम की संजीव है, यानी कि evolution is an unbreakable chain of cause and effect, right? पहली बात तो ये है कि I do not believe much in this city, क्योंकि बिल्कुल ही नहीं करता कि पंजाब, सिंध, बलूचिस्तान या सरहद के दो लेवल तक हम देखें। I believe in one Pakistan as a person, right? I think say that कि पंजाब के रोल में अगर कोई कमी रही और इसके ऊपर अभी कभी जैसे लोगों ने बहुत सारी नस्लें भी देखी हैं, मिसाल के तौर पर गुजरात में पंजाब पाकिस्तान के बाद सिंध बलूचिस्तान तो कब से रोते हैं और कहीं पंजाब अभी तक सोते हैं, ये गलत सब लिखे 80-70 की गिराई में। तो उसकी बुनियादी वजह ये है that the material conditions in Punjab, the majority of the population of Pakistan were kind of comfortable in comparison to the rest of the provinces. बलूचिस्तान के जो मसाइल थे या सिंध के जो मसाइल थे या केपी के जो मसाइल थे या इलाका गैर के कॉम्प्लेक्स थे जो अफजाम हो गए केपी में, उसके जो मसाइल थे पंजाब के वो मसाइल नहीं। तो इस वजह से पंजाब उतना एक्टिव नहीं था। लेकिन मैं आपसे अर्ज करूँ कि पिछले 2-2.5 साल में, एंड आई लाइक टू गिव दिस क्रेडिट टू इमरान खान, कि पिछले 2-2.5 साल में जिस तरह का एक्टिविज्म और जिस तरह की पॉलिटिक्स में पार्टिसिपेशन और रेजिस्टेंस मैंने लाहौर में जो पंजाब का सेंटर है, दिल है, वहां पे देखी है, वो भी मुझे तो काफी हद तक अनप्रेसिडेंटेड लगी है। मैं जब लाहौर में शो कर रहा था और चैनल पे, तो मेरा जो रास्ता था घर से दफ्तर तक का, रोजाना आई हैड टू क्रॉस लाहौर और इमरान साहब अंदर होते थे। और पहले 9 महीने से पहले का सिचुएशन ये थी कि हमारे खैमा बस्ती आबाद थी और उसमें दूध बत्ती चल रही है, जलेबियां चल रही है, भंगड़े हो रहे हैं, डांस हो रहे हैं, हर कैंडिडेट ने अपना स्टॉल लगाया। तो मैंने वो टाइम भी देखा और उसके बाद 9 महीने और उसके बाद वो खैमा बस्ती बिल्कुल उजड़ गई। और वो वक्त देखा, लेकिन उसके उजड़ने से पहले जब पंजाब पुलिस ने जवान पाक लाहौर में कई दफा ऑपरेशन किया, क्या करने की कोशिश की, तो लोगों ने बड़ा तो मैं ये नहीं समझता कि the majority of the people in Punjab do not care what's happening in Pakistan. I think that the reason was that they were not direct effectees of the situation. So otherwise, it's around some 71 से पहले East Pakistan Revolts में उसके बाद और तो having said that, I believe कि हर चीज जो है वो क्योंकि अपना वक्त लेती है वो वक्त ले रही है। लेकिन मैं फिर आपसे मैं ये कहूँगा कि I do not believe in this segregation. I believe in one Pakistan Let's take 2-3 more questions.
I would like to ask you questions. Why pigs are good? कंप्लीटली सेम कि जहां बैठ के अगर हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते तो क्या रास्ता है कि यूथ को रेवोल्यूशन क्या है? व्हाई आर यूथ स्टेटिंग? जो क्वेश्चन है जहां डर है क्या बेटा
You feel that Pakistan is a representative of youth, right?
मेरी बात सुनो क्योंकि हमारे पाकिस्तान में अगर कोई चेंज आ सकती है तो वो यूथ लेके आ सकती है। हमारे यंग ब्लड जो है वो चेंज आ सकता है, लेकिन आप कोई रास्ता बताएं कि आप अपने भी होते लेकिन यूथ को कैसे बाहर लाया जाए, उनका डर कैसे खत्म किया जाए।
इसको एड्रेस करना मुश्किल सवाल है, मतलब it's not that easy question. We can take a bunch of these questions. You need to talk about
already not talking about what the model is waiting for the very context. What is the both narratives biology is a time hard question. Most likely it's gonna eating violence and everything. What other things? Laws of state. So many people are saying us, oh, fucking what's happening? Everybody forgets. The student lost of some 5 people were made and they were killed on that. Yes, 5 people by name and they were ordered to be killed because they were murderers, not because they were unbelievers. They have murdered. Yes, so there is no forgiveness for characters, whatever crimes, because there is no constitution or religion gives you that only belongs to sovereign mindset. And that this is how can these people develop justice? This is the biggest thing. Actually, how these people, unless these punishments are given, they are not understand.
register on that. So let's think आप इसे अभी तक से लेकर आ रहे हैं। ये बड़ा मुश्किल मोमेंट होता है। सीधी में बड़ी डिबेट्स हो रही हैं, बड़ा मुश्किल मोमेंट होता है, दबाव में ज़्यादा होता है।
माननीय जर्मनी का जमीन चौधरी साहब, ये मैं बहुत बढ़िया की बात करने लगा हूँ। क्वेश्चन है आपके गवर्नमेंट का क्वेश्चन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। हम बात सतही कर रहे हैं जबकि ये जो मामला आज हम फेस कर रहे हैं ये 6 दहाइयों से चल रहा है। ये अफगान कयूर से शुरू होकर अफगानिस्तान से चलता हुआ यहाँ तक पहुंचा है और असल बीमारी जो है उसकी तरफ कोई तवज्जो नहीं है। और वो बीमारी ये है कि हमें निजाम बदलना है। हमेशा निजाम वही का बताने लगा, उसके लिए बहुत जरूरी है कि वो ऐसा तरीका इख्तियार करें कि पूरी कौम एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे आए और वो रेजिस्ट करे उन ताकतों को जिन्होंने के ऊपर कब्जा किया हुआ, जिन्होंने हमारी हिफाजत करनी है, जिन्होंने हमारे ऊपर कब्जा किया हुआ। उसके लिए जरूरी है कि पूरी कौम को शक्तियात से बाहर निकल कर आप कौम को एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे लाकर उन्हें बताएं कि हमें निजाम बदलना है। एक छोटी नहीं बात, कोई भी नहीं, उसके लिए उसके महफिल जरूरी है, चाहे फौज हो, चाहे पुलिस हो, चाहे अदलिया हो, लेकिन जरूरी क्या बात है हर महकमे को अपनी लिमिट के अंदर रहना, उसे अपने लिमिट से बाहर नहीं निकलना। उसके लिए जरूरी है कि कौन को एक प्लेटफॉर्म
मैंने तो रखी है कि 400 से ज़्यादा 400 से ज़्यादा लोग यहाँ पे आप सब लोग तो शॉर्ट टर्म्स एब्सोल्युटली आप कोई दिक्कत नहीं है कि भी आप रजिस्टर करें लोग क्या रिस्पॉन्ड करेंगे।
I think everyone wants to ask this question, that what is the Imran Khan going to get a call to come out and take on these people?
ठीक हो गया
Well, I have a question which is not directly related here. ये जो फलस्तीन में जुल्म हो रहा है इसके खिलाफ क्यों नहीं बोलने देते पाकिस्तान में? So that's a very interesting guy. I mean, that is the most disturbing but the target in the genocide which taking place, where this media start, he was saying that we are most disappointed for Pakistan. We knew the other would do shit for us. But what about Pakistan? Very interesting question. People struggle or struggle and how to do it. The parent is very smart and intelligent, also responses quick responses in it. Quickly down the phone and certain levels of the find out दूसरी बात मैंने बात की एक बात लेकिन जब हम इसका नाम की सर्टिफिकेट है एक बात का नहीं तो मैं ये करने के बाद और वो भी आगे तो आप जब ये बात करेंगे तो उसी आपकी बात पूरी लगेगी क्या और कम वाली बात कोई समझना पड़ेगा अगर अमेरिका मसले में इतनी उम्र होती है अगर एजुकेशन चाहिए एजुकेशन बना के फॉल तो उसका क्रम सब आगे रोज लेकर जो ग्राम के थोड़ा उसको लॉन्च उसके बाद मतलब जब आप बोल रहे थे तो यहाँ जो गाइडेंस था उसको थोड़ी बहुत उसकी क्या कहते हैं हाँ मतलब की बात आनी क्योंकि एक बात तो मैं पीटीआई को सपोर्ट करता हूँ समझता हूँ कि आप बहुत सही लिखते हैं अब आपको ठीक है ना चुनाव वाले का बात हुआ हमने पीटी वाले से कॉन्टैक्ट को मान किया 5 साल किया है कोई पीटीआई वाले जो है आपके साहब हैं डॉक्टर कांग्रेस में पूरी मूवमेंट कैंपेन चलाई और साइन के बारे में बड़ा से पहले किया उनसे आपसे बात की ह्यूमन राइट्स वालों ने उनसे बात की उन्होंने कहा कि हमारा फोकस ये नहीं है जनाब वाला नहीं है सिस्टम नहीं है अभी हम इमरान खान को फोकस करें क्रिश्चियंस को हम हमारे मसले में बोल सकते हैं क्या प्राइवेटली जो अरब ममालिक कंट्रीज हैं वो कन्वे किया है कि वो कोई हमारे को थोड़ा सा बहुत ज्यादा खुश नहीं है क्योंकि बहुत ज्यादा मसाइल करनी है और मुस्लिम ब्रदरहुड वाला है तो पाकिस्तान इस सिलसिले में इसलिए भी चुप रहता है कि वो अपने अरब ममालिक को दोस्तों को देता होता है कि वो किस तरह से पोजीशन है अच्छा और दूसरी जो गवर्नमेंट है जो बड़ा इम्पोर्टेंट सवाल था कि is going to be the day after. तो वो सीपी की पॉलिसी से लिहाज से मैं कहूँगा कि क्या न सिर्फ ये जो आप इशू करें कि दूसरी की मेरे जो इशू जो चल रहे हैं वो तो उसकी क्या पॉलिसी होंगी और उसके लिए क्या तैयारी करेंगे किस तरह से वो पोजीशन करेंगे तो मैं ये करना चाहता हूँ हो गया
मैं कह रहा था कि बिल्कुल आप सब लोग बहुत काबिल एहतराम हैं और अगर सोचते हैं सियासी अमल में हिस्सा लेते हैं और यकीनन मुझे पूरा यकीन है कि आपकी काविशें जो है बेहतरी की पाकिस्तान में वो बन जाएंगी। यहाँ पे जो प्रोग्राम ये वाला है इसमें आप जो लोग हैं दोस्त हैं उन्होंने सहाफियों को बदल दिया है, तो आप प्लीज जो सवाल पूछे ना उसमें ये जरूर मद्देनजर रखें कि आप रिपोर्टिंग करने वाले सहाफियों से या लिखने वाले सहाफियों से सवाल कर रहे हैं। अगर है कि इस सवाल का जवाब यहाँ बैठा कोई शख्स नहीं दे सकता कि इमरान खान बाइक देने कौन कर देंगे, हमें क्या उधर कर देंगे, तो कैसा का जवाब देंगे ना। तो ये सहाफी रहते ये मद्देनजर रखें।
अच्छा, मुझे बड़ा एहसास है कि ये कभी कुछ भारत से सर आपको भी देखना होगा सबसे
ये डॉक्टर मेरा नाम उस्मान वालिद है, मैं आईटी फील्ड से हूँ, मैं 17 साल से आईटी फील्ड में। तो मेरा क्वेश्चन आप जर्नलिस्ट के लिए है। तो आप सब बात कर रहे हैं कि सोल्यूशन क्या है। सोल्यूशन बहुत सिंपल है। सिंपल है। आप जैसे पाकिस्तान में 70% जो गवर्नमेंट इंस्टीट्यूट है उनको रिटायर्ड जनरल रन करते हैं। That's why they are not. That's why they are not running properly. You need to cut their branches. आप जर्नलिस्ट में आप पार्लियामेंटेरियन से बात करें कि वो पार्लियामेंट में कोई कानून है कि कोई रिटायर्ड जनरल ही भी लॉ रन द गवर्नमेंट फॉर But as well as you will cut the branches, you will let them understand you are well trained to defend the country, not run the country. Let the branches really run the country.
सर आपको इसलिए मैं तो करूँ पार्लियामेंट जर्नलिस्ट है पार्लियामेंट के से बात करें आपको करेगी मैं करूँ
पिछले 1 साल से जेल में है, वर्कर हर तरह से बर्दाश्त कर रहे हैं। पीटीआई की लीडरशिप का हम सबको पता है, टॉप लीडरशिप कंप्रोमाइज है, इंकलाब कैसे आएगा? अगर यहाँ पे माइक कानून एक दफा माइक नहीं आ सकता। एक जमाने में हम पाकिस्तान करते थे टेलीविजन पर ऐसे बहुत प्रोवाइड करते हैं सारा माइक मुश्किल कर तो ये हमारे छोटे मामला होता है कि माइक पे सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट की तरह तो सब कुछ कोई नहीं जी
Alan Adnan, is the name. Samaya, the first of all, I want to make a comment on the question. No, from whoever's resigning such and such. As soon as the Prime Minister of Bangladesh 80%, she was voted out for it. So, okay, this family was 90% voted out. So, my question is, and we talk about human rights, equalities, conferences. I've never seen anybody talking about the religious human rights. The gentleman on the table mentioned about ETIs and communication for other citizens. My question is, if there's a saying that says, if you want to protect your rights, you have to protect other people's rights. So, with that in mind, the oppression which the colonies and Christians Hindus face in Pakistan, and they can't even pray in their mosque. Right? So why are this Pakistan and the press doesn't speak against it? Are they afraid of mullahs or are they afraid of God?
और पहली दफा हुआ है कि लोगों की राजी नहीं निकाली तो represented the case by citing Islam, by citing the position of Pakistan, by Article 20. अब यहाँ पे हुआ क्या है? हुआ तो वही पॉलिटिक्स बेसिकली तौर पर क्या है कि मौलाना फजल रहमान के पास 6-7 सीटें हैं and it is estimated by नवाज उल जरदारी के वो 5-4 और लोगों को भी आ सकते हैं और जो उनका टू-थर्ड मेजॉरिटी का गैप है प्रोटेक्टेड अपॉर्चुनिटी का काफी कल को आगे बढ़ाना चाहते हैं अंडर द सर्कमस्टेंसेस नया लॉ क्या है उसमें इनको मौलाना फजल रहमान की जरूरत तो फ्रीडम वहाँ पे भी समझ आ रहा है कि मौलाना फजल रहमान को उन्होंने उनके ट्राइबल बेल्ट पे एक लीडरशिप पोजीशन प्रोवाइड कर दी है मुबारक साहब केस को and that is how the Supreme Court को भोगी करके with some sort of understanding उन्होंने ये डिसीजन करवा दिया है और असल डिसीजन था जो कमेंट लिखा था पैरा 9 ऑफ फरवरी ये लिखा हुआ था कि इंडियन कम्युनिटी को अपनी इबादतगाहों और इंस्टीट्यूशंस के अंदर बनेगा एक ऑर्थोडॉक्स कम्युनिटी है खुला अपनी नस्ल एजाद नहीं कर सकते दिस इज व्हाट द सेंस ऑफ दिस लेकिन अपनी इबादतगाहों के अंदर जो कुछ भी कह सकते हैं जुलाई में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इसको डिफेंड किया 24 जुलाई 2024 के डिसीजन में अब वो जो नया डिसीजन कराया है उसकी अभी तक इम्प्लीकेशन बाकी सारी दुनिया को नहीं पता चली उसका मतलब ये बन गया है एक अगर माइनॉरिटी है तो वो अपने रिलीजन को अपनी इबादतगाहों और अपने इंस्टीट्यूशन में घरों में भी उसको प्रोपेगेट नहीं कर सकती उसका मतलब ये बनता है अब मैं आपको बताऊं वॉट माय वर्ड्स कुछ महीने नहीं तो कुछ एक दो सालों में ये एक नया फुल रिपोर्ट लगाएंगे और इसी डिसीजन को रिवर्स करवाएंगे बिकॉज ऑफ द डिसीजन रिजॉल्विंग यूनियन बरतानिया और अमेरिका के थिंक टैंक्स और ह्यूमन राइट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को समझ आएगा रिजॉल्व होगा इस पे जो रिएक्शन होगा इस पे जो डोनर फंडिंग और डिफरेंट चीजों की चीजें के साथ आ जाएंगी तो फिर इसी तरह से बाजू मोड़ के एक और सुप्रीम कोर्ट से इस डिसीजन को रिवर्स करवा रहे होंगे बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली इन्होंने ये किया है सेट अ वेरी बैड प्रेसिडेंट द क्वेश्चंस आर वेरी deep.
I will run the stopwatch, so you have to shorten your question to 30 seconds. My name is Chevening. My question is just, जो लोग 2 साल पहले तक कीबोर्ड वॉरियर्स थे आज वो डिजिटल डैशबोर्ड कर रहे हैं तो मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि ये जो थिंकिंग है या जो पॉलिसी मेकिंग जो ऑन द मीडिया साइड वो फ्लॉड है या क्या है आई मीन दे डोंट इवन हैव द कंसिस्टेंसी कि 2 साल तक ये लोग कुछ कहते हैं और बिल्कुल पैराडाइम शिफ्ट आ गया है और ये डायस्पोरा को उन्होंने देश में डैशबोर्ड कर डाल दिया है तो I have 2 studies on this please.
Under pressure है बहुत ज़्यादा जैसे पहले में under pressure जी
और मेरा ये सवाल है मैं के साथ बात करना चाहूंगी कि उन्होंने कहा कि ये जुल्म एग्जैक्टली ये जो सॉन्ग है ये हमेशा से है पाकिस्तान में और इसकी रियलाइजेशन जो है वो हमको अभी 2-2.5 साल से इसमें भी बहुत बड़ा किरदार जो है वो आप लोगों का है क्योंकि आपने आगे के लोगों मेरा सिर्फ सवाल है कि आपको थोड़ा सा अपना और अदा करने पाकिस्तान में जो ऐसी चीज नहीं है वो है चेक एंड गाइडेंस आप लोग प्लीज उसके लिए जरूर काम कीजिए कि कैसे तवाज़ुन बरकरार रखा जा सकता है आपका इस वक्त भी रोल बहुत अहम है और अगर इस चीज को आप उजागर कर सकेंगे तो आइंदा भी बहुत
से क्वेश्चन कमेंट्स ऐसे हैं जिसके जवाब में आगे भी जो क्वेश्चन की पुट करेंगे उस क्वेश्चन के अंदर तमाम चीजों का जवाब हो सकेगा और उनकी बरकरार बाकी सब दूसरे काम कर सकेंगे जी आप मेरे लिए क्वेश्चन
Why don't you be transparent with the people of Pakistan?
Why don't you be transparent?
Yeah. You have a script in front of you. What script did they have to get rid of the unjust government? You have an example in front of you. What do you do towards the United States? What do you do towards the European countries? You have a valid example right in front of you. What do you prove your revolts? What do you transparent? There's a cost as a certificate, but you as Jews have to be conscious of that and take a step forward. Lead the community. Lead the Pakistani people in the right direction. You have a huge responsibility to face.
Is anyone of you ready to respond to some of these questions? For instance, checks and balances क्यों नहीं है? ऐसे कानून क्यों नहीं बनाए जाते हैं? सही रक्षक के बातों को सलाह कैसे मिलेगी? Why don't people write against the other authority? इससे कोई आपको एक करके जॉब पहली बात तो है फिर मैं एड्स करने की ऑल्सो वांट टू स्पीक टू मैं एड्स से भी आ रहा हूं कि पहले कभी खाली सवाल किया था रिलीजियस आप मुझे आपने सवाल करते हुए आपने शादी का नाम पहले भी शादी का नाम दिया मैं भी कहा मैंने एनजीओ का नाम दिया आपने एनजीओ का नाम दिया आपने सिर्फ देश के लोग एनजीओ का नाम दिया क्या करा आपने किसी और को उन्होंने सबसे पहले एनजीओ का नाम बहुत अच्छा किया तो आप मैंने कहा यहाँ बैठ के कितने लोग लेकिन भी छोटे स्कूल चाहिए कितने लोग ये कहेंगे कि हम एनजीओ के साथ काम करेंगे हमारे यहाँ शिफ्ट सुविधा भी ज्यादा हमारे लिए कहा जाता है कि रसूल है इन्होंने दबाव का दावा किया है इसको पास ठीक है आप देखिए अच्छा मेरे पास में बाकी के पॉइंट पर प्रेशर डालने की बात की किसी ने भाई पॉइंट पे प्रेशर से ये सारे 44 मैं से होगी मुझे दिया और पहली कैपेसिटी डाल दिया उसके जवाब लिखता रहा और इसलिए कंफ्यूज हो गया बात ये है कि प्रेशर हर किसी सवाल में जवाब ये प्रेशर जब बनेगा जब इंटरनेट प्रेशर पे होगा फिर आप इंटरनेट प्रेशर पे नहीं होगा कुछ नहीं होगा क्या सकते हैं ट्रम्प साहब कर सकते जब पाकिस्तान में 70,000 जो प्रेसिडेंट ओबामा है और समय इंटरव्यू किया तो मुझे बताया कि मुझे कीमा बनाना भी पाकिस्तान में टीका बनाना भी क्या कह सकती पॉलिसी तो बहुत पाकिस्तान में नहीं है क्योंकि उसकी पॉलिसी वही थी जो कि होनी चाहिए अमेरिकन प्रेसिडेंट ठीक है तो जब तक इंडियन प्रेसिडेंट होगा वो नहीं है इसकी बात फिर खत्म हो बांग्लादेश की बात किया बांग्लादेश का बहुत सारी बातें एक छोटा से प्यार होगा बांग्लादेश में आदमी नहीं है दर्शन की तरह हमारी आदमी ही है हमारी बहुत बड़ी आदमी 6 लाख लोग हैं टैंक्स है न्यूक्लियर वेपन्स है एयरफोर्स है सब कुछ बांग्लादेश को बहुत किसको हमारी रेंज देखनी पड़ती ठीक है शुरू में मैं इस बात को तस्लीम कर लिया कि मीडिया से लड़ नहीं सकते ज्यादा मीडिया से नहीं लड़ेंगे इन तरह लॉ एंड ऑर्डर के लिए थोड़ा सा बॉर्डर बैन करने के लिए पहुंच जाएंगे इसलिए वहाँ फौज का किरदार अलग है फौज को कंफ्रंट करना आसान है पाकिस्तान में फौज को कंफ्रंट करना आसान नहीं आप यहाँ बैठे ऐसी बात कर रहे हैं तो बैठे रात को कोई किसी का आदमी आता है ना साथ मानने के लोग कर जाते हैं इसका उठाने की जाती है आपने से करना चाहते हैं आई वो मैं एक चीजें एडवांस कर रहा हूँ आपको एक रेजोल्यूशन डॉक्टर स्वामी प्रेजेंट करेंगे आपके सामने जिसकी कॉपी which is a set of remarks जो expect करते हैं कि होनी चाहिए उसके अलावा there is also a sort of performance drive towards the end उसके लिए रुक सकते हैं इसमें निकाल दें तो आपको इसका बता एक क्वेश्चन आप लोगों की तरफ से विभिन्न शक्लों में विभिन्न अल्फाज को बताया जाता है जो फौज की जरूरत की फलाह की जाती है तो कुछ लोग सवाल पूछते हैं कि रात को हमसे कि बांग्लादेश में ऐसे हो गया तो पाकिस्तानी कितनी बड़ा लेकिन बड़ी जियारत है बहुत कमजोर है या मुस्लिम है वजह ये है कि पंजाब के लोग जो है वो क्यों कुछ नहीं खड़े होते जबकि ये है कि तुर्की में जिस तरह से 2016 में हुआ तो पाकिस्तान में वो चीज नहीं हो सकती फिर किसी ने कहा कि शहीद अरशद शरीफ के साथ में उनको क्यों नहीं मारा फिर किसी का ट्रांसपेरेंट क्यों नहीं हम जसवानी के साथ लेकिन इसकी ये रिटोरिकल क्वेश्चन है और इसके जवाब के लिए हमें थोड़ी सी अंडरस्टैंडिंग भी चाहिए सोशल साइंसेस और पॉलिटिकल साइंस के सब्जेक्ट की कैसा क्यों नहीं होगा जब ये हमसे इंटरव्यू की सारे पॉलिटिकल साहब ने रेफरेंस दिया जो स्टूडेंट्स ऑफ लॉ सिस्टम्स का जो जिन्होंने जो स्टूडेंट्स के कॉलेज जो है हॉस्टल में उन्होंने कोर्स किया और उन्होंने कहा कि जो पूर्ण डेफिनेशन की लॉ की लॉ इज द विल ऑफ द सॉवरेन जो बादशाह ने कुरान की जो विल होती थी वही कानून होता था तो जब रोमन पॉलिटिकल का ये उस पर ये फैसला होता है कि जीसस ने जाके बदवा किया है जीसस क्राइस्ट ने तो वो उसको क्रूसीफाई कर देते हैं वो ये देखते नहीं है कि उसके कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस जो है वो क्या होंगे बिकॉज लॉ वाज परसीव्ड टू बी विल ऑफ द सॉवरेन अभी जो इंसानी सोच का इर्तिकाब हुआ है गुज़िश्ता 2000 बरस से, और खास करके इस मुल्क में जहाँ हम हैं, इस मुल्क की इसके अंदर बड़ी कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन है, क्योंकि आइडियाज डेवलप के फिलोसोफर्स ने दिए जरूर थे, लेकिन वो उन आइडियाज को इम्प्लीमेंट न कर सके। तो जब हम अंग्रेज के साम्राज्य के खिलाफ, अंग्रेज बादशाह के खिलाफ अमेरिकन कॉलोनिस्ट जो था, जो खुद अंग्रेज था अपने ओरिजिन में, वो खड़ा हो गया 1748 सदी के आखिरी हिस्से के अंदर। तो उसने जो बेसिक प्रिंसिपल बनाया अमेरिकन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का 8 साल लगा के, वो ये था कि किसी इंसान को बादशाह नहीं बनने देता, किसी इंसान को खुदा नहीं बनने देता। उससे पहले जितने बादशाह थे, रोमन तहजीब के पर्शियन की सब, वो सब अपने आप को खुदा का वाइस रीजन कहते थे। ऑटोमन जो है, फेरो हो या ऑटोमन हो या रोमन हो, वो फिर आपको खुदा का नुमाइंदा कहते थे। ये अमेरिकन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पहला डॉक्यूमेंट है, किताबें जरूर लिखी है एनलाइटमेंट के यूरोपियंस ने, लेकिन वो इस चीज को कहीं पर भी इम्प्लीमेंट ना कर सके, क्योंकि एनलाइटमेंट के आइडियाज किताबों की शक्ल में अमेरिका में आए। अमेरिकन रेवोल्यूशन जो था, उसने कहा कि कोई खुदा नहीं होगा, कोई इंसान खुदा नहीं होगा, कोई बादशाह नहीं होगा। इसीलिए ये सिस्टम बनाया गया जहां प्रेसिडेंट को सिर्फ और सिर्फ महदूद ताकत दी गई और उसकी ताकत को कंट्रोल कर दिया गया बाइकैमरल कांग्रेस, जिसके अंदर एक सेनेट भी है और वो सेनेट डायरेक्टली इलेक्टेड है, और उसका हाउस भी है, वो भी डायरेक्टली इलेक्टेड है। उसको भी जो 13 कॉलोनीज थी, उनके गवर्नर भी डायरेक्टली इलेक्टेड थे। हर कॉलोनी को भी आगे उन्होंने एक लेजिस्लेचर दे दी, और इस मुल्क में 50 लेजिस्लेटर्स में से जो स्टेट्स की हैं, 49 बाइकैमरल है। सिर्फ इंडिया अंडरस्टैंडिंग है कि अलास्का जो है वो शायद बाइकैमरल नहीं है, 49 बाइकैमरल है, और आपके पास इलेक्टेड सिटी मेयर्स और फिर पुलिस कमिश्नर जो सब है। तो चेक्स एंड बैलेंसेस का एक ऐसा सिस्टम उन्होंने कंसीव किया जो पूरी दुनिया में कोई कंसीव ना कर सकता था इससे पहले। यहाँ पर बेसिकली उन्होंने सारी की सारी जो अमेरिकन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की बेसिक स्पिरिट है, वो ये है कि इंसान के हाथ में जब ताकत आएगी तो वो ताकत को एब्यूज करेगा, उस ताकत को आपने कंट्रोल करना है। उन्होंने उसको पहले दिन से कंट्रोल, इसीलिए अमेरिका में दूसरा रास्ता भी है, गन कंट्रोल नहीं कर सकते। इसलिए वो कहते हैं कि हमें मिलिशिया बनाने का, बंदूक रखने का हमारे पास हक होना चाहिए। हालांकि बात अजीब हो गई है, लेकिन बेसिक उनका कॉन्सेप्ट है कि हुकूमत जालिम होती है। इसलिए बार बार यहाँ से डिबेट किया है पर्सनल रिपब्लिकन डेमोक्रेट, उनके लिए कि हमें, वो कहते हैं कि स्ट्रॉन्ग गवर्नमेंट चाहिए ताकि टैक्सेस में लोगों की खिदमत करें। वो दूसरे कहते हैं कि हमारी दौलत के ऊपर कहा मार है कि हमारा राइट है कि हमें अपने पैसे कमाने, हम ज्यादा टैक्सेस देने ही नहीं चाहते। सो ये एक एसेंशियल पॉलिटिकल डिबेट है। जब तक हम पॉलिटिकल साइंस की इस डिबेट के अंदर नहीं जाएंगे, ये सिर्फ रिटोरिकल स्टेटमेंट्स है कि बहुत से कोई नहीं लड़ना, तो पंजाबी बुजुर्ग है, तो पठान बहादुर है, तो फलां के साथ हो गया, तो फलां के साथ हो गया। इसलिए कि वहां पर पाकिस्तान में जगह बहुत है। अगर आप पिछले 3 बरस की पाकिस्तान की तारीख देखें, आप अपने आप से सवाल पूछें कि जितने लोग दुनिया के मुल्क हैं, वहां पर 2-4 मुल्कों को छोड़ के बर्मा वगैरह या इस तरह कौन सा मुल्क है जहाँ गुज़िश्ता 2-2.5 बरस में एक रियासत के इदारों को इस्तेमाल करके लोगों पर इतनी बड़ी तादाद और इतनी बड़ी फ्रीक्वेंसी से उनके ऊपर जमा किया गया है। 24 घंटों में उन्होंने 10,000 से ज्यादा लोगों को पंजाब में गिरफ्तार कर लिया, किलों के दरवाजे तोड़े, औरतों बच्चों की परवाह उन्होंने की, घसीटते हुए लेकर चले गए। आप देखिए पुलिस के भी डिप्टी सुपरिटेंडेंट को पुलिस की कानूनी से मोहम्मद अफजल जो डिप्टी सुपरिटेंडेंट हरियाणा जेल के, उसको उसके घर से उसकी बीवी 2 बेटी और उसके बच्चों के सामने धक्के मार के उसको 5 लोगों ने निकाले। पुलिस का सीनियर ऑफिसर है, पुलिस की कानूनी से उसको उठा गए। तो इस सिस्टम में जमा आप कभी इमेजिन कर सकते हैं किसी कैसे भी आपका भाषण के अंदर, तो जिस लेवल का जबल उन्होंने वहां से प्रोड्यूस किया हुआ है, वो जबल अगर आपने कीजिए एग्जाम्पल आप भूल गए, जब वहां पे हजारों लोग बैठे बैठे सड़क के ऊपर और सीसीटीवी फौज ने कहा कि उठो, जब वो नहीं उठे, उन्होंने कभी सोचा ही नहीं था कि उनके ऊपर बसें बंद गाड़ियां चला दी जाएंगी या उनको चुन के वहां पर सैकड़ों की तादाद में मार दिया जाएगा। गवर्नमेंट कहती है 700 लोगों को मारा, प्राइवेट लोग कहते हैं 3,000 से ज्यादा लोगों का मैसेकर हो गया, कोई काउंट नहीं रखा, फिर हुआ गया। तो उन्होंने लाइफ में ही इस स्ट्रेटेजी से किया कि बजाय इसके कि हमें सड़क के लाके टैंक चलाना पड़ जाए, हम इनको अपने दरवाजे के ऊपर ले आते हैं, दरवाजे पे लाके मारते हैं ताकि खौफ और दहशत बचे। तो वो खौफ और दहशत का एक सफर है जिसका जवाब आहिस्ता आहिस्ता ही पाकिस्तानी कौम जो है वो दे पाएगी। इसेंशियल प्रिंसिपल है कि अब हमारे पास, अच्छा फिर दूसरी बात मसलन लोग कह रहे हैं, यहाँ से बात कई दफा लोग रिपीट कर सकते हैं, कानून क्यों नहीं बनाते इसके साथ? तो कानून में क्या रखा हुआ है? ये तो अजीब बात है, अचानक किस्म की बात है। मैं हैरान हूँ कि लोग इसको बार बार खुदाते रहते हैं, खुदा कॉमन सेंस को रिसर्च कर रहे हैं। कानून मैं अभी आप रेजोल्यूशन पास कर दे तो क्या हो जाएगा? अभी आपकी बैनर यहाँ से गुजरती है, आपके 14 लोगों ने वोट डाल दिए। कानून इज एज गुड एज लॉन्ग एज इट हैज पावर। आपको क्या बोले थे वर्ड सुनाते वर्ड जाओ सैंक्शन नहीं पावर कानून उतना ही अच्छा है जिसके पीछे सैंक्शन है यही काजी फायदा साहब और किसी की चीजें कर रहे हैं जब उनको उन्होंने काम से पकड़ के ये मुबारक सानी केस में उनको डिफीट करना था क्या 2 दफा काजी फायदा ने फिर आपको मुबारक सानी केस को डिफेंड नहीं किया क्या 6 फरवरी 2024 में काजी फायदा सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने डिसीजन लिखा है एंड को हक है इबादत का फिर क्या 24 जुलाई को अपने डिसीजन को 27 पेजेस 50 पैराग्राफ में डिफेंड नहीं किया उसको बुलाया जिस तरह से सुप्रीम कोर्ट के ऊपर हमला करवाया गया और हमला करवाने के बाद 1.5 पेज तक लिखवा दिया गया कि सब कुछ खत्म हो गया प्राइवेट फिटिंग कर दी वहां तो प्रिंटर मौजूद ही नहीं था तो फिर ये पावर है ना तो ये लॉ से कुछ नहीं हो सकता वो लॉ उतनी बेकार और रिडंडेंट है जो आपने किताबों से उठा के कहीं से लिख दिया है और आपकी सारे साथ हैं जब तक कि आपके पास उस सिस्टम ऑफ पावर नहीं तो जो पर्सन है सोचने वाला कि आप सिस्टम ऑफ पावर को कैसे चला करते हैं एक जुड़ा और ग्रेजुएट जब फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन आया जिसकी पाकिस्तान में बहुत ज्यादा तारीफ की जाएगी फिर अमेरिकन रेवोल्यूशन 1789 में फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन आया 1760 में अमेरिकन में 1789 में इन्होंने 4000 लोगों को तो बुलेटिन से मार दिया बादशाह समेत पुलिस सबको खत्म कर दिया लेकिन उनको ये समझ ही नहीं आती थी शौरी एतराज से कि बादशाह के बयान निजाम चलेगा कैसे तो चला ही नहीं पाते थे क्रास को और 1799 में नेपोलियन बादशाह बन गया उसका कंट्रोलर बन गया डायरेक्टर बन गया कुछ सालों के बाद वो बादशाह बन गया फिर वो एम्पर बन गया फिर जब नेपोलियन को बाकी यूरोप ने शिकस्त दे दी तो फिर फ्रांस में बादशाह वापस आ गई फिर 1815 से लेकर 1848 तक बादशाहती रही फिर दोबारा रिपब्लिक खड़ी इलेक्शन हुआ नेपोलियन थर्ड बन गया उसका प्रेसिडेंट बन गया लेकिन उसको मतलब कि मैं प्रेसिडेंट इफेक्टिव ही नहीं इलेक्टेड प्रेसिडेंट था इलेक्टेड प्रेसिडेंट ने अपने आप को चेंज किया फिर उसके बाद रिपब्लिक खत्म हो गई फिर 1870 में जाके कहीं एक दोबारा फ्रांस के अंदर एक रिपब्लिक आई तो उनको 100 बरस में अमेरिकन रेवोल्यूशन जो था वो 1770 में बड़ा क्लियर था कि बादशाह में उसने गर्दन नहीं उड़ाई किसी बादशाह उसने किसी बादशाह को बेसिकली एलिमिनेट किया लेकिन इसमें सही तौर पर ये जुगराफी का भी लोग टेक्निकल कहते हैं कि ये अमेरिका के खुले जुगराफी का भी असर था आप बाहर जाते हुए यूरोप से आए कल जगह छोटे छोटे शहर माइंड छोटा सा हो जाता है इधर आप अभी क्रॉस करें जो ब्रिज क्रॉस करते हैं हम आएंगे रास्ते में हम आए हर ब्रिज क्रॉस करते हुए आपको वसत का एहसास होता है तो जो अमेरिकन कॉलोनिस्ट था उसके जहन में वाइडनेस की बहुत ज्यादा उसकी वाइडनेस के लिए उसकी पॉलिटिक्स को भी इफेक्ट करे तो ये मुश्किल सफर आई होप सम ऑफ द क्वेश्चंस जो आप लोगों ने उठाए बहुत से नई बात है उसको एक्सप्लेन कर दूंगा पहले इसमें बस थोड़ी सी है आपके बात में टोटली और यहाँ से बाकी बहुत सारे सवाल आ रहे हैं बड़े सीधे सवाल क्यों नहीं होता कब होगा क्यों नहीं खड़े हो रहे कौन से तरीके से आपकी अपनी लीडरशिप जितनी है वो कॉम्प्रोमाइज है ये भी कह दिया एक साथ में मुझे नहीं पता वो भी कुछ लोग होंगे नहीं मेरा चीजें ऐसे ताल्लुक नहीं है बट व्हाट आई थिंक the audiences here need to understand primarily is ऐसा नहीं है कि पाकिस्तान में कुछ भी नहीं हो देखिए आप यहाँ पर बैठे हुए हैं जिस सोसाइटी में आप बैठे हुए मेरी जानने वाले मुझे बता रहे थे कि मैं एक दफ्तर जाता हूँ उन्होंने कहा कि एक दिन क्या हुआ कि हम दफ्तर का जो दरवाजा था डोर एंटर करने लगे तो हमने देखा डोर में नीचे सामने फर्श पे नेस्ट था बर्ड नेस्ट और उसपे कुछ बर्ड के एग्स थे अंडे बाकायदा पूरी मीटिंग कर दफ्तर बोर्ड की और ये डिसाइड हुआ और उन्होंने रिसर्च किया कि ये कौन सा पता लगे कि ये एक खास किस्म का परिंदा है जो अपना नेस्ट दरख्त पर बनाने की बजाय फर्श पर बनाता तो उन्होंने कहा नाउ दैट ही हैज मेड द नेस्ट द बर्ड हैज मेड इट्स नेस्ट लेट द नेचर टेक इट्स कोर्स ये जब हो जाएगा उसके बाद इस दरवाजे को इस्तेमाल करेंगे उतनी देर हम अल्टरनेटिव दरवाजे इस्तेमाल करें आप इस सोसाइटी जहाँ पे जानवरों के लिए हकूक है पाकिस्तान में आज का अखबार आप उठा के देखिए खबर है हेडलाइन है कि एक 9 साल की बच्ची की कचरा कुंडी से लाश बरामद हुई है और पोस्टमार्टम के बाद पता ये लगा है कि वो जिनसी ज्यादती कर चुका है When was the last time you heard this kind of news है I mean rape की खबरें होंगी crime is a part of every society लेकिन कचरा कुंडी से लाश बरामद हो गई ना
कहने का मकसद मेरा ये है कि यहाँ पर जो सिचुएशन है उससे कंफर्टेबल एनवायरमेंट में बैठ के हमें जरूर ये जोश थोड़ा था कि क्यों नहीं बात हो रहा उनकी बात है आइए मिसाल के तौर पर जो डॉक्टर साहब ने बहुत ज्यादा इस तरह की सिचुएशन फेस की होगी मैं जब पाकिस्तान में था और प्रोग्राम कर रहा था कई दफा ऐसा हुआ कि रात में जेल बना के चले हो सकता है आज रात को मैं रेस्ट कई दफा जेल बनाया मेंटली प्रिपेयर किया मैंने अपनी वाइफ को चेक लिख दिया कि भाई इन केस मैं अगर नहीं करूँ तो होगा तो आपको पता ही नहीं लगता कि मैं ये कोई प्रॉब्लम है कि क्योंकि साहब आपको रेस्ट के लिए जेल में डाल दे आई एम लॉयल आई नो माय राइट्स एंड फाइल पिटीशन फॉर पेनल्टी नो But you have examples of people like Iran where जो 3 महीने बाद किसी को पता ही नहीं मैंने वो प्रोसीडिंग देखी है एक सेकंड 4 महीने मैंने वो प्रोसीडिंग देखी है लाहौर हाई कोर्ट के चीफ जस्टिस की कोर्ट में इमरान रियाज खान जब गायब हो गया था उसको बरामद कराने के लिए उसके वालिद साहब की जो पिटीशन डाली थी वो वहां पर आते थे और चीफ जस्टिस लाहौर हाई कोर्ट उस वक्त जस्टिस थी और जैसे प्रोसीडिंग पूरे सिस्टम में भी सख्त नहीं थी कि एक आदमी जो सेक्रेटरी कमांडर थे उस टाइम में उनको बुलाकर पूछ ही नहीं कि जरूर बना होता डीपीओ को बुला रहे डीसी को बुला रहे सरजनिश कर रहे हैं सरजनिश कर रहे हैं और लेकिन उनको अगर वो जी सक रहे हैं इस तरह से सो द पॉइंट इज के यू need to understand the situation in politics. It is a total subversion of constitution. It is a total subversion of law. There are no fundamental rights in such a situation. Generally, आप जाएं वहां के आपका नारा बुलंद करें अली में बगावत बुलंद करें आए आप यहाँ पे जो साहब उधर खड़े होकर बहुत जोर से नारे लगा रहे थे मुझे बताया कब फ्लाइट करिए कब करेंगे और यही हमारा बहुत खराब है
So, we'll wind up this discussion very soon, and it seems to me, and so switching back to the native language, English. Eric, I have a question well tailored for you. While we were speaking about it, I have realized that many people in this house, many people in the family perhaps, also think that ultimately the struggle for the freedom of the people has to be the domestic struggle, it has to be the internal struggle, right? Now, the world has become very interdependent complex. Looking at the post-colonial history of which you are very keen student. Countries like Pakistan, not the country of the size of India or China, but a country of the size of Pakistan, with its economic interdependence on left, right, north, south, up and down. I think people of Pakistan can only struggle internally to gain their rights, or they need support from the liberal society from the outside as well.
Thank you for the question. I think from our perspective, the people of Pakistan have been very clear that they're on the side of constitutional democracy and human rights. And I think from what we could tell, it was an overwhelming vote in favor of Imran Khan in February. And then the election was pretty transparently stolen. And from our perspective, the main reason that they felt comfortable doing that was because they were getting signals from Washington that they could do it, and that Washington would help cover that up. And that's what we believe they effectively did. And I think after the election, we saw that Washington was very quiet. There was a lot of criticism of the election, and Washington was very effective. And so from our perspective, it relates to the work that we're working with so many people in this room to do, is that if the United States merely applied its principles that it applies all over the world to the situation in Pakistan, the establishment in Pakistan would be very deep trouble and would not be able to sustain. They're essentially able to do this repression because the U.S. is silent. And that's where, we're hoping that folks in this room, particularly people in New Jersey, it's a very important state, many members of Congress and senators in New Jersey that have not spoken out and not, gotten really active in support of democracy and human rights in Pakistan. And so, from our perspective,
It's a very simple path forward, at least the initial step. Through representation in Congress, like we have with Research 901, continue to turn up that pressure. And over time, the White House would have to hold the Pakistan government accountable. And when they do that, the forces of the overwhelming support for democracy in Pakistan is going to track. So, I'm sorry. Let's ask you this question. We almost close to 5 p.m. so we should be winding up. So we can take your question if there's one. I do have the privileged position of talking to many congressional aides and Department of State, talking to many of them. All that I've all more than 1, 2, 3 occasions. There also the Central Intelligence Agency experts, analysts, retired diplomats, and so on, Pakistan experts. One thread which I picked up is they think that a country like Pakistan, which is turbulent, which is disturbed, which has Islamist tendencies, which has huge population, and so on, in the dangerous and nuclear weapons, can only be governed through the Pakistani military. They think how else would we manage Pakistan? But tell us, they say, tell us how else would we manage Pakistan? Military is the only way. There's one phone call. This is what we say people see Pakistan speak. How do we change this mentality or thinking and convince them that Pakistanis are right, we have a middle class, we need to have the human rights and the democracy. How do we begin to think about it? Well, I think that's been the process that's been taking place since this election. Actually, when the election happened, and many members of Congress who are connected to people, activists or democracy activists, were complaining about the election or lack of U.S. action, the State Department responded by saying, in private meetings, this is just how things in Pakistan is. The military will always be in charge. This is what they said. And it's like, actually, the people of Pakistan are saying that they don't want that to be the case anymore. That's what this election is about. And so for these U.S. officials to say it's always going to be that way, well, unfortunately for them, it's definitely not always going to be that way. And, in fact, this military regime is very struggling to even maintain control. I mean, even New York Times is reporting that, when the New York Times is reporting on a U.S. ally like this, it's very close to the end. New York Times a couple weeks ago reported that, anger is boiling over in Pakistan and they can't keep a lid on it, even with all the repression on the internet. So, I think what it comes down to is this community, particularly here, it's working with those who've been doing it. We get more skills and we become a voice. People here are known to their member of Congress. That member of Congress knows, well, I didn't know that the community knows, so what's that like? They've been taught us about Pakistan, little by little. Unfortunately, the community needs to be humanized, not just seen as an interest for the United States. And so that's what I think is kind of the hard work that everyone in this room and across the country has to do, showing members of Congress and eventually the White House who are actually human beings who want democracy. You can't just, basically condemn us to being run by a U.S.-backed military. And I think that's the process. Eric, thank you so much. With your permission, one question. So you are the lucky man, won the lottery. My name is Analyst, and thank you very much. Thank you got off the phone. Thanks for inviting us. My question is, James Carville in the Clinton campaign said his economy is good. And our economy is being handled by Army. It's a $200 billion empire. Everything is going to have. Trying to make you understand why would they leave that? Why would they leave? They don't care about the country's economy, but self-economy. Army's economy is their business is $200 billion empire. But why would the leader try to make you understand? I can answer that in one single sentence. We will never need it unless they are forced. And yes, there are circumstances, either through the public pressure, through the intellectual discourse, through the pressure of the diasporas, from the international donor community, like World Bank, Analyst, Islamic Development Bank, Islamic Development Bank, the US government, the British government, slowly and gradually under the pressure they will not do. They have a problem now. The problem is this: they have no role in the region. They have been told they cannot fight against India. They also realize they cannot fight against India. The fight with India is over. Now they want to go and basically have a good relationship with India. That is why they invented Afghanistan as an enemy. But as one Taliban official, Joel and Clara, is not taking this opportunity. You see, anytime Pakistan is basically taking very important role, very angry with Afghanistan, the Afghans never respond right. They always cool it down. So they're trying to invent a new enemy, but I don't think they will be able to invent a new violent enemy when they will be able to sell to the West. You want to add anything to that?
I just want to say something that they were also on if I'm still working my son. That's not एक कोशिश है कि इस पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को वापस लाने की ताकि इमरान खान को पहुंचे। कामयाब हो या ना हो ये अलग बात है, लेकिन ये पूरी कोशिश है इस पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को वापस लाने की।
Anything without learning some of this is more.
One solution would be that a group of army officers having sense, understanding what's happening, and they revolt against existing governments. Something over might happen.
Has asked this question that maybe the solution to the current problem is with some of the army personnel to revolt against the current military leaders. That's the question, right? So I believe that army, there is no doubt about the fact that it's so the African has law, the Army Act of 1950. And then there's the Constitution. So as far as revolting against one's own institution is concerned, that is not permissible under the law, right? So I'm very clear about it as a law person, question. However, it is, I believe, the job of the government or the other institutions of the state, for example, the judiciary, the bureaucracy, the parliament, right? Because the Constitution talks about the principle of separation of powers. And it means that no one institute should impose upon the function of the other institution because the result will be a chaos. But the problem in Pakistan is that the army is calling the shots. The chief of the army staff or the military staff is from top leadership is calling the shots. And even at the helm of the Fed and the rest of the institutions have accepted. So they need to stand up for their own rights. That look, this is the domain of judiciary. You cannot send over an intelligence agency personnel, chief justice of Islamabad High Court or a serving judge of Islamabad High Court to enforce it to pronounce a certain decision and make a certain bench. And so, this kind of a stance should also be taken by the politicians. And one institution that I believe has never taken a stance in Pakistan ever in history, I believe is the Revolts. Because I have seen the lawyers movement, I have seen something that is joining the lawyers movement, sitting on stage, making speeches. We've seen politicians at one point in time revolting against the status quo. And then it shoots there. politics. One of them haven't stood up against the system collectively, but independently, individually, they have at some point it has right. So, but one institution that has never ever raised anyone's is bureaucracy. You must never find an institution response. If you want to really want to make a comment, please do it. This order to find out the others.
really becomes great to our regulatory aspects in these project. हम बहुत level में देखें कि ये क्यों हो रहा है, वो क्यों हो रहा है. World level पे क्या हो रहा है, कई सफर नहीं हुआ powers के साथ. So far from the acceptance in the economic growth, we can they get pulled in different directions. How they navigate this is very important and can be thankful aspect. And so forth.
बिल्कुल सही है. Thank you so much. मैं मुझे ये मानिए मैंने बहुत ज्यादा तकरीबन आप कह सकते हैं 50 से ज्यादा मैंने ऐसे ज्यादा आपसे करवाया था मुझे उस पॉलिसी का अंदाजा है जो इसके एंड में होती है उसमें भी ट्राई जो कि हम थोड़ा 2-3-4 सवाल पूछे लेकिन और भी यहाँ पे हैं हो नहीं सकेगा. आपको बहुत से जो क्वेश्चंस हैं जो कि जवाब नहीं आ सके मैं समझता हूँ. मैं अपने दिनों के अंदर एक ट्वीट हमारे पास 2 मिनट है. So I will try to address those questions. वैसे एक समय आप चीज कहनी और वो ये है कि पाकिस्तान के लोग सिर्फ अपनी तनख्वाह लेवल से चाहे 10,000 लोगों की रीजन में बढ़ जाए इस क्राइसिस से नहीं निकल सकते. ना ही इनको कोई मिलिट्री इस क्राइसिस से निकाल सकता है. ये सब वो विश्व थिंकिंग है तो पाकिस्तान की उर्दू के ज़राए इब्लाग और सहाफ़त में और लैक ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ पॉलिटिक्स एंड वर्ल्ड डेवलपमेंट की है. पाकिस्तान के लोगों को पाकिस्तान की डायस्पोरा सीखने की जरूरत है बिकॉज द लिबरल पावर सेंटर्स इन द बैठे हुए हैं. जितना ज्यादा लिबरल पावर सेंटर्स में एंगेज चलेंगे लंदन में, ब्रसल्स में, ऑस्ट्रेलिया में, न्यूजीलैंड में, कनाडा में, यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स के हेल्थ सेंटर कैपिटल में उतना ज्यादा पाकिस्तान के अंदर जो फिल्मी है उसके रास्ते में रुकावट खड़ी करेंगे. वहाँ लोगों को सांस लेने का मौका मिलता है. वो अपने आप को फिर आजाद नहीं कर सकते. हाँ उसकी स्ट्रगल नहीं करती है लेकिन वो अपने आप को इस जगह से अब नहीं निकाल सकते जिस जगह का वो शिकार हो सकते हैं. तो ये सोचता है तो गलत नहीं है. सबसे मसला है
सबसे जिस तरह अभी का यूथ तो निकलती है पर सर्जरी को ये कहती है मेरा आई से क्लोज कांटेक्ट है मैं नहीं निकलने. नंबर 1. नंबर 2 शेर अफजल पर्वत निकला है ISI की बात अभी की है तो उसने तो ISI के कपड़े फाड़ दिए हैं तो ये लीडरशिप निकले तो सबके कपड़े फटेंगे.
Ladies and gentlemen, please keep sitting for a few minutes if you enjoyed the program. We can show you take. Let's give a big round of applause to our esteemed speakers. The program is not over yet. We have a meeting with the royalty with Amanda. His name is Sheikh Ahmed. He is the son of Salman Ahmed, the mayor. He is the Sheikh John is the musician based in New York. He is performed on many platforms in Pakistan and here, and he has toured in Pakistan and Japan. So I would like to invite Sheikh John Ahmed. Which is
कोई काम नहीं, फायदा वाला कोई नहीं है. हम ना फायदा देते हैं नुकसान देते हैं. काम हो जाए बस हुआ. 4 घंटे का प्रोग्राम मेंटेन करना बड़ा मुश्किल काम. लोगों का स्टैमिना आधा घंटे का नहीं होता, 1 घंटे का. How much? I think people are gonna leave. I don't think nothing will be happening.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's been 4 hours.
Yeah, so this is this one up.